All right, if I could have your attention, please, real quick. We have a couple of presentations tonight before we kick off our city council meeting at 6:30. So we're going to have a couple of presentations. One, then I'm going to pass the mic over to Hernandez. There we go. We're going live here. So Councilmember Hernandez, I'd like you to present this award.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a certificate of recognition to our Youth Environmental Council. That's part of Keep Pearland Beautiful. Mayor, we have some amazing students and youth here in our city, as you're well aware. Keep Pearland Beautiful has a Youth Environmental Council that draws students from all of the high schools here in Pearland. And this is one of our Youth Environmental Councils. Darian, is that correct? Yes, Darian is here with us. And we've got our Keep Pearland Beautiful Director of Operations, Lenora. And we've got Emily down there at the end. She is the one, if you call Keep Pearland Beautiful, if you call the recycling center, Mayor, she's the one that answers the phone and gives you all that great information that people request constantly about recycling services and curbside trash services we've got. But we tonight wanted to focus on some awards that Keep Pearland Beautiful has won. And one of those in particular is the Youth Environmental Council, the hard work that our youth have put in. And so we've got this certificate of recognition from the mayor here to the Youth Environmental Council of Keep Pearland Beautiful, who recently received statewide recognition as the recipient of the 2022 Ruth Jackson Youth Organization Award. This group of environmental stewards are commended for their efforts to enhance our beautiful city and state and have demonstrated their commitment to our community by collecting over 106 pounds of litter. Applause. Volunteering at the annual Arbor Day tree giveaway and assisted in planting trees at the John Hargrove Environmental Center. And additionally, the group has collected over 165 pairs of shoes for the KPB Shoe Recycling Drive, planted 65 trees, removed overgrown weeds and plants affected by the 2021 February winter freeze, and helped KPB create engaging environmental messages for social media connecting with our community. So please, let's give them a round of applause. And this certificate is for you, for all the good work. Mayor, if we could take just a moment, I want Lenora here to also talk about a few other awards we've won since then.
Thanks so much. So Keep Pearland Beautiful, we celebrate 40 years this year in the city of Pearland. One award, it's going to be really hard, that we received this past week is the 2022 Governor's Community Achievement Award, second place. We have received 7 first place. It is funded by TxDOT, and if we would have won first place, we would receive funding to beautify TxDOT roads in Pearland. And then the second one we received was the Pearland GCAA Sustained Excellence Award. So we have received a 90 or higher for more than 3 years. So this one is from 2020 to 2022, and we've received it for at least the past 12 years. And then the Gold Star Affiliate Award, Keep Pearland Beautiful has received that for 2022. It comes with a really long report, a couple of different other reports, and then a letter from the mayor that gets sent to the state affiliate. And we've had this for many, many years, so we've sustained it. So we're so excited.
And Mayor, I just wanted to point out one final thing. Again, thank you for this recognition. These certificates and awards that we have here are from a statewide organization. So we are part of a large system, and there are many Keep Beautifuls. Keep Pearland Beautiful, though, I think is a true leader amongst our peers. And so we're very lucky to have our youth. We're very lucky to have our KPB staff here really leading the charge and making Pearland the shining example.
Yeah, I want to thank each one of you for what you do. One thing that I get constantly from people, it's new people moving to town, people who come and maybe want to visit with me with meetings and whatnot, they all talk about how clean our city is. And that is that's a pride. It's pride in our city. And I tell people all the time, when I see one piece of trash on the side of the road, it just drives me nuts because it's not supposed to be there. And when you've got green landscape and green esplanades and all of that, and you got that one piece of napkin or something that sits there, it sticks out. And I take a lot of pride in our community, knowing that that's the exception, not the norm. And I really take a lot of pride when people come in and they just rave about how beautiful our city is and how clean it is. And you guys help do that. So I want to thank you for all the work that you do each and every day, all the different programs, not only our youth put on, but also the staff put on, and our community as a whole. If you want to know more about how you can be involved, there are roadways that can be adopted. You can be that person or that group that's out there helping to pick up and clean up and keep it tidy. We always have those available. And we want to thank you for what you do to keep our city beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lenore. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And if I could get our Parks folks up here for Parks Month. Y'all come on down. Looks like they got beach balls. It just started raining outside, so maybe you brought the beach with you. I don't know. All right. Again, one of the opportunities that I get often to make proclamations, and it's always special when I get to do a proclamation for some of our own internal departments. We do those with fire and EMS and police, public works. We had Public Works Week here about a month and a half ago with all the equipment out here. These are some of the folks, if you went out to Celebration of Freedom, a week ago tonight, they weren't off work. They were working. And they were putting a lot of work in, not only that day, but that weekend and leading up to it and all the planning. But I can tell you, the event was second to none. It was off the charts. Best guess, 15,000+ people in the park. And it's the efforts of folks like this that not only pulled that event off, but they pull off events each and every day throughout our community. And so with that, I want to offer up this proclamation. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Pearland. Whereas Pearland Parks and Recreation promotes collaborative partnerships with local nonprofit organizations and other stakeholders to serve with a common goal of building a strong, vibrant, and connected community. And whereas Parks and Recreation and their partners promote diverse and inclusive programs, leagues, and exceptional experiences to enrich lives in Pearland. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. Now, therefore, I, Kevin Cole, by the power vested in me as the mayor of the city of Pearland, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2022 as Parks and Recreation Month. And I ask families, friends, and citizens both near and far to join me to recognize the quality of our parks and natural resources in Pearland, in addition to the contribution our parks have made to the appearance and quality of life for our citizens, given today, this 11th day of July 2022. And as mentioned, even with the previous group, keeping Pearland beautiful, keeping Pearland walkable, keeping Pearland where it's a place that we want to be, that quality of life. All of these folks work together, our YMCA partners and others, to make this happen. And they do it each and every day. They get up every day with a purpose in mind, and that's the end user and our citizens. And I want to thank them for that. Kevin, I'd like to turn this over and allow you to say a few words on behalf of Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Mayor Cole. Yes, absolutely. Every year, the National Recreation and Parks Association allows us to celebrate National Park and Recreation Month. So thank you, Mayor, for recognizing an awesome team for the City of Pearland Parks and Recreation. Throughout this year, this month, the theme this year is We Rise Up for Parks and Recreation. So throughout this month, you'll see different opportunities of not only just special events that are happening throughout the community, but also programming that's intently done to be equitable services for our community. We also are looking for environmental resiliency as well. As mentioned, we take a focus on a lot of communities do not, and focus on our natural resources and recreate and preserve those while we do that. And last but not least, we're excited to have community partners with Y here as well tonight, and the YMCA of Pearland, Vic Coppinger YMCA, along with Harris County Precinct 1. We are working together as a community because we're going to work and rise up as a community to meet the need of a program at the end of this month in July. So we'll be look for more information on that, and as with all of our programs and services, pearlandparks.com. Thank you very much.
Right. Got to get that .com in there. Do it. And they have a great Facebook presence and social media presence as well. You can find out everything that's going on in Parks and Rec by just joining and liking and being a part of that. So with that, I think, Josh, we're going to take a picture. All right.
You want to do still first?
Do you want us to get?
Then we'll do the toss.
Yeah, y'all come over this way.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Y'all have a good one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. Thank you. All right, we will call to order the City Council regular meeting agenda for Monday, July the 11th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. If you would please, we're going to have our invocation by Mayor Pro Tem Carbone and our pledges to both of our flags by Councilmember Hernandez. So if you would join us all by standing and participating. Thank you.
If y'all would bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day. Thank you for all our blessings. Help us to conduct ourselves and make decisions that are honoring and pleasing to you. Be with those that are protecting our freedoms around the world and all our first responders here in the States, in the great state of Texas, here in our city. And thank you for this rain, and get us all home safely tonight. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
And now to our Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, thank you for that, and just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We have a good full agenda for you, and with that, we will move forward in our agenda to roll call and certification of quorum. Madam Secretary, I'll certify that we do have a quorum present. We have all members present with the exception of Councilmember Kamkar. He is out on vacation, so we wish him well and safe travels and a safe travels home. With that, we're going to move to citizens' comments. With that, I want to reiterate a couple of things in our rules. Just as we, a couple meetings ago, over the last couple of meetings, we need to make sure that we are following our rules as citizens to speak. Number one, you will be just coming under the order in which you have turned in your sign-up form. For anyone wishing to speak that's speaking on behalf of a group, there'll only be one speaker for that group. And given the 5 minutes, anybody else would take the normal 3 minutes. If you have a handout, we've had this happen. For security reasons, this is a business meeting of the council, and people approaching the dais in the middle of the meeting can take away from our decorum, but also just away and just a distraction to the council. So if you've got something to turn in and you're going to be speaking about something, please turn that in to our city secretary. They will distribute that across to the council. Help us do that so we can stay focused on comments and stay focused on the task at hand. So with that, also, if you are speaking for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, we ask you to keep your comments within that time limit. We've had people just continue to try to go over that time limit. We will remind you at 3 minutes that your time is up, and after a little bit of time trying to get you to wrap your comments up, we'll go ahead and ask you to terminate your comments at that point. Again, it's about fairness. The rules are there on your sign-in sheet, and we just want everybody to keep it where it's supposed to be on the rules and let us have a good meeting as we move forward. So with that, we're going to move forward in our agenda. First up, we have a public hearing number 1. So Martin and your staff, I'm not sure who's going to take this first one, but if you guys would read into the record the reason for the public hearing. Oh, so that's right. We do have one citizen's comment for general comments. All the other citizens that have signed up are signing up for a specific agenda item. So with that, Mayor Pro Tem, if you'll take that.
Thank you, Mayor. Take no offense, but Soccer Ted.
There he is.
If you would give us your real name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Appreciate it.
Yes, Ted Calavoda. I'm here representing Pearland Soccer and Shadow Creek Soccer and Sports. And I think this might partly be in the agenda, but it's an ongoing issue, so I think it's kind of general. We've had probably about 3 or 4 years of trouble out at Hickory Park with the irrigation system. And it's been causing trouble with the grass growth. And when we put a lot of players out there, it creates a lot of sand and dirt and no grass. And we've been working closely with Kevin and Pearland Parks to try to get things fixed. It's kind of been a nightmare. So we need council to consider what Parks is going to say tonight about their irrigation system, their controlling system out of all of Pearland. But if you can't go for the big deal tonight, we at least think you could consider kind of focusing some funds on trying to fix the situation out of the Hickory. Last year, we spent $40,000 of our own money to put in new sod because the fields were completely destroyed. That sod, some of it is getting ready to die because it's not getting any water. So if I have to go out there with buckets of water and dump it on there, I will do that, but it's not going to be an easy process. So we really need your help to get the irrigation system functional at the park. We have 12, 13, 1,400 recreational players that go out there in addition to lacrosse. And when half of the field is just dirt, that's not good. All it needs is some good fertilizer and good water. Very simple. And we appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you for that. Trent, if we could get with Ted and figure out what we need to do there and report back to us. It's probably the first we've heard of that. So that way we can know and understand what's going on there. Appreciate your comments. All other comments, I believe, Mayor Pro Tem, are on a particular agenda item? Okay. So we'll get to those as we get through the agenda. So first up, we have our public hearing number 1. Martin and your staff, if you would put into the record what's the purpose of the public hearing and then go into your staff report, that would be appreciated.
Sure thing. Thank you, Mayor. So this is a public hearing request by Anup Pande, applicant on behalf of Hillhouse Holdings, owner, for approval of a zone change for approximately 4.8787 acres of land from Neighborhood Services District to the Single-Family Residential 4 District. The property is generally located at the 2700 block of Hillhouse Road. So as stated, this is a zone change from the Neighborhood Services to the Single-Family R4 District, and this would be to develop a residential subdivision. You can see the future land use map on the screen currently that indicates the property as retail, offices, and services. These are a couple pictures of the subject property shot on location. The Planning and Zoning Commission held their public hearing on June 20th, earlier last month. The Commission generally discussed the neighboring subdivision, the desire to maintain some of the existing trees that are on the site, and then generally the characteristics of the land, how it lacks frontage onto a major thoroughfare, and that it would be difficult to access for commercial development. Finally, ending their thoughts, they talked about the city's desire for additional housing diversity. Following that, the Commission recommended approval of the request by a vote of 6-1. Mayor, hand it back to you.
Thank you for that. I take it you're the applicant?
Yes, I'm the owner of the property.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to you as applicant. If you'll give your name and address for the record, that'd be appreciative, and you're up for your report.
Sure. Ahmed Ansari, 114 West Drew, Houston, Texas, 77006. I have a presentation about the project to give you all some details about exactly what we're going to do over there. Can we get the...
There we go.
Perfect. The proposed neighborhood is going to be called Hillhouse Estates. So the property is owned by Hillhouse Holdings. The land developer will be my company, Equitrust Real Estate Development. We've done several projects in the Houston area over the last 5 years. So proposed development, currently we have 5 acres of land. It's currently zoned as neighborhood services, which allows for a wide variety of uses, including retail, office services, commercial development, restaurants, so forth. We're proposing to change to a R4 cluster zoning, which will allow us for the development of approximately 28 houses on that land. So this is a screenshot of the aerial shot. So we have Sunrise Lakes just to the north and to the west of us. And as you can see, we're quite a bit away from Broadway or any other commercial stuff. All right, this is a little bit zoomed out just to kind of give us a broader scope of where exactly we're located. This is one of the artist renderings that we're kind of working with. The one idea was to have the detention pond along with some dedicated park area towards the front of the property. That way, all the neighbors can appreciate the beauty of that as they enter the neighborhood. One other thought was perhaps to have the detention and a park area at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we're still kind of going back and forth about that. This will kind of give you an idea of what our neighborhoods will look like. The lot line will actually be the front yard will be a lot bigger than it shows on that picture on the left. So there will be several amenities. It's going to be a gated community. We're going to have a private lake with a fountain, paved streets with the curves. We're going to have dedicated areas for preserving nature and parks and recreation. If you can see here, there's at the southern border of the property, there's a very thick row of trees, and we're planning to preserve that as much as possible so that way we kind of have a natural boundary between us and the commercial development to the south. All right, so we think it's an ideal development. There's majority of the property around are already single-family homes, and for that reason, you know, it's just natural for our property to be used for that same purpose. I feel like commercial developments would negatively affect the home values nearby, and so in my opinion, residential use is the highest and best use. If we were not able to convert to R4 zoning, then our options include, you know, the following: car wash, office, retail, shopping centers, and I just don't feel like the neighbors want that next to their houses. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for that, and we may have some questions for you as we move forward in our public hearing. Next up, we will open it up to the public. Those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request can go to the podium, give your name and address for the record, 3 minutes to speak. I see one moving in that direction. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. My name is Andrea Holmes. I live at 8814 Sun Haven Lane. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak this evening. I'm speaking to you tonight because I'm directly impacted by the proposed project. I live behind the land in question and share a backyard fence. I spoke last month at the Planning and Zoning meeting. I have lived in my house for 18 years and have been very pleased with the fact that the property behind me has remained a vacant field. In speaking to my adjacent neighbors, we feel over the years that the field has saved our homes from severe flooding, given us privacy, and limited theft. However, I knew the day would come to address this property's future. I've spoken to the Sunrise Lakes homeowners president. He acknowledged that he was aware of the proposal and shared that when Pearland Lake subdivision was proposed, it was met with a lot of resistance. But it has increased our home values, which is a double-edged sword for me. It's also increased my taxes. My other neighbors were indifferent on the proposal. Therefore, I am speaking on behalf of myself and my husband and no one else tonight. My preference would be to leave the land as is. If progress is needed, my husband and I prefer the land be used for residential development. We do not want another half-empty strip mall, abandoned freestanding ER, or a restaurant in my backyard. Concerns include drainage, the destruction of the beautiful trees as mentioned, and the pains of construction noise. Residential traffic would not be as high as commercial use down Hillhouse Road, but traffic between Collin Boulevard and Sunrise Lakes Boulevard is a mini racetrack, in my opinion, making eastbound turns very dangerous right there. This proposed community will not have access to a traffic light. In summary, we support, my husband and I, the residential zoning change and endorse this gated community. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Second request, anyone wishing to speak for or against this proposed request? And third and final request, anyone wishing to speak in favor or against this proposed request? Seeing none, no one moving in that direction, we'll move it to City Council for questions, comments, and concerns. Member Koza?
Yes, thank you. Martin John in here talks about how that the property on the south side would have to have a buffer for the home development if we were to approve this. My concern on that is that why wouldn't we have the developer that's wanting to request this change put that buffer in along that line?
So the unified, thank you, Councilmember Koza. So the Unified Development Code only requires the buffer to be, only requires the larger of the two buffers to be installed when the property, when the commercial property develops further and has a residential boundary, being that the commercial property would be a non-residential use adjacent to a residential user. What I'm getting at is that currently the property does not have a residential buffer necessary. So that residential buffer is only necessary after the property is developed with a residential subdivision.
So if a commercial property came in today to develop it, if there wouldn't be residential behind it, there wouldn't be a buffer needed. But because of this request, if council approves it, that would then kick in for any future development on that property, that residential buffer requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I think this makes sense.
Okay. Questions, comments from the rest of council? Member Barry?
Just one simple question. Is there not room for multiple entrances, like side by side, or for emergency services and things of that sort?
Multiple entrances. So we may have to have an entrance through, if you can show my slide.
And Councilman, I'll just add while he's pulling that up, that tonight is just really about the zoning. His project could change in all types of ways before it actually comes in for development. And whatever it does would have to meet the emergency access requirements of our codes.
I got you. Thank you.
And John, what is the current requirement for requiring a second access? In the 30 lots?
Yes, sir. Over 30 lots requires a second entrance, or that all homes are sprinkled.
Is there 28 lots or 24?
So based on R4 cluster, 28 is the maximum we could have, but it'll probably be less than 28.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from council? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing and move to new business item number 1. If Member Koza would place that on the table, we appreciate it.
Consideration and possible action, first reading of ordinance number 2000M-226. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We've had staff report and we've had questions, comments from council. Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Kate?
Aye.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6-0.
All right, moving to public hearing number 2. Same thing, Martin. Staff put that on the record and right into staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a request by MSJ Business Group, LLC, applicant on behalf of Shadow Creek Investors owner for approval of a conditional use permit to allow for the expansion of an existing liquor store use on approximately 6.944 acres of land within the Struhall Kroger Plan Development. This is located at 11041 Shadow Creek Parkway. So as stated, this is to allow an existing previously approved packaged liquor store to expand their site. You can see the general location of the liquor store here in the aerial and zoning map. And again, the 288 gateway is what the future land use map indicates this property for, and it is in conformance with that future land use designation. This is a couple street view pictures shot on site. The property will be, or the existing business will be expanding to your right, here indicated on the screen. And then this is a proposed, or the existing and the proposed floor plan for the work to be completed. Within 1 mile, there is one existing or one soon-to-be existing liquor store. Within 2 miles, there are 5, and then 3 miles, there are 12. So the Planning and Zoning Commission conducted their public hearing on June 20th, and all of the commissioners stated that they would vote to recommend approval of this request. Mayor, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant present? There we go. You've got a presentation. Please go to the podium. Give us your name and address, and give us your presentation. We appreciate you being here.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Stephen, Big Border Liquor Store, 11041 Shadow Creek Parkway, Suite 102, Pearland, Texas 77584. So I'm representing MSJ Business Group to expand our liquor store, to expand the existing liquor store. So you have any questions, you can answer for that.
Yeah, if we have any questions, we'll get to it under City Council questions and comments, but we appreciate you being here, and we'll move forward in our agenda. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move to those wishing to speak in favor or against this proposed request. You can go to the podium, give your name and address in 3 minutes. Second request for those wishing to speak in favor or against this proposed request. And third and final time, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Seeing no one moving in that direction, we'll move to City Council for your questions, comments, and concerns. We'll open it up. Member Owens?
Yeah. Okay. You're just requesting to increase the size of your facility. Is that what you're doing? Increasing the size of the liquor store?
Now the present size is 1,200 square foot. We are planning to extend another 1,200 square foot. Total to 2,400.
Well,
you're moving into the side next door to you. Okay.
How long has the store been there?
5 years.
Huh?
2017. We started on 2017.
So you probably came here for approval in 2017.
Yes, we allocated.
I was on council in 2017. Okay. I probably didn't vote for it then, and I won't vote for it this time either.
Okay. It's consistent. Any others? Questions, comments, concerns? Member Hernandez?
Mayor, this is the existing store that's in the same area as the specs that was approved, correct? Yeah. So I did not vote for the specs. I generally don't vote for new liquor stores, but I think because you're existing, I love to see that this is really, the market working, and you've got a competitor moving in, and I see you taking proactive steps. So I'll go outside of my normal voting habit tonight and probably vote for this, Mayor.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we will close this public hearing and move to new business item number 2. Mayor Pro Tem Carbone, would you place that on the table, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action, Resolution R 2022-CUP 22-18. So moved.
Second, Hernandez.
We have a motion and a second. We've had staff report, questions and comments from council. Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Cade?
No.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
No.
And Member Koza.
Aye.
Okay, this motion passes 4-2.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on to public hearing number 3. Same thing, Martin, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a request by Lisa M. Dabrowski-Scheit, of Windrose Services, applicant on behalf of Gold Knight Holdings LP, owner, for approval of a conditional use permit for manufacturing, fabrication, processing, and assembly, other use, on approximately 24.851 acres of land within the mixed-use science technology district of the Clear Creek Spectrum Plan Development. The general location is the northeast corner of Kirby Drive and North Spectrum Boulevard. So as stated, this is a request to construct a new industrial facility within the Clear Creek Spectrum LNRPD. This site is again located northeast corner of Kirby and Spectrum. I will remind you that conditional use permits are those uses which may need conditions or may not be suitable within surrounding developments. With that, let's examine the site and the area. So the Lower Kirby Urban Center is home to a 1,200-acre mixed-use development, which serves as an economic base for future growth of Pearland. The proposed location is south of Indris Hauser, east of Merritt Medical, and north of Tool Flow. The Clear Creek at Spectrum plan development is comprised of 3 areas. You'll see a District A on a future map, which is the Beltway District. This is for retail office use, which is preferred in addition to science and technology land uses. Then we'll have District B, which is the mixed-use science technology district. That serves a broad base for science and technology community. This is where the proposed site will be located within. And then District C is the mixed-use industrial district. And this serves for the light and heavy industrial uses to the west of Kirby Drive and is an area to support the science and technology community. So let's talk about some of the developments that we've had within this area. Indris Hauser was developed in Area A, Lonza, Tool Flow, Rec Supply in Area B, and Mitsubishi Heavy Compressor and Cardiovascular Services Incorporated in Area C. Each of these developments has had to meet the architectural facade, landscaping, and screening standards found within the plan development. The subject property will serve as an introduction to Area B, which is intended for science and technology uses. This conditional use permit allows council the opportunity to determine if this use at this site is appropriate within the surrounding development, or if another location would be more appropriate considering the existing developments. So let's talk about how we got to where we are and what definitions are controlling the development of this property. The plan development has 2 definitions for industrial uses. You have a light or an other use. The light classification is limited to a nominal amount of dust, odor, gas, smoke, or noise, and no more than 20% of the lot is allowed for open storage. The plan development discusses nominal as a 0.001% increase in all existing levels, and all other uses are categorized to other: manufacturing, fabrication, process, and assembly, which is where we find ourselves requesting this conditional use permit. Other is described with heavy industrial uses, as you'll see on the written definition on the screen. Looking to the UDC for additional guidance, heavy manufacturing process is defined by a facility for mass production of goods, usually for the sale to wholesalers or other industrial or manufacturing uses. On the S&S website, they state that they intake and produce electroplated and plating of metals for oil and gas, power generation, or automotive uses. So this is the proposed site plan for the development. You can see that there are 2 buildings with employee parking along the front. Between those 2 buildings is an outdoor storage area, and then to the rear of those buildings is a truck courtyard for the loading, transfer, and hauling of those processed materials. Located in the middle right is an on-site wastewater treatment facility. Here we have the first rendering. This is a view of the office space. This is the second rendering, a little bit of a close-up. The third rendering taken from the other side, the front of that office space. So from there, let's discuss the infrastructure issues that were brought up within the staff report. This development will create discharge that will cause the city to become further regulated by TCEQ. The steps necessary to come into compliance with TCEQ are to establish an approved pretreatment program. Setting up and establishing this program will negatively affect ratepayers within our wastewater enterprise fund. There may be additional monitoring costs for sampling required through this program that new and existing businesses would have to come into compliance with. Additionally, we have the following conditions for approval. These are the conditions should City Council seek to recommend approval for this. The first we have is that all buildings on the subject property shall be developed in the same manner and with substantial conformance to the renderings that were submitted by the applicant. The second, highlighted in green here to help understand the site plan, we recommend additional vegetative screening be located within a minimum 8-foot landscape buffer to be provided along the east and north property lines, consisting of a continuous hedge of evergreen shrubs at a 6-foot height at maturity and a minimum 2-inch caliber shade trees every 30 linear feet of the north and east property lines. Then the truck court shall be screened from the view of North Spectrum Boulevard by an 8-foot high masonry screening wall, matching the exterior of the buildings, with exception for the driveway into the truck court. And then finally, the outdoor storage area. Any proposed outside storage area shall be screened from view by a masonry screen wall matching the exterior of the building and up to the height of the items to be screened. So the Planning and Zoning Commission held their public hearing on June 20th. The commission generally discussed the pretreatment and locally allowable levels, being able to provide utility services for the development, and of course the monitoring as discussed. There was no vote. No vote was conducted. However, all members stated that they would generally be in approval of this development. Pearland is the city of choice, and as such has chosen to adopt land use regulations to maintain orderly development and maintain value within the city. Conditional use permit is a tool that allows the council to determine if this use at this site is appropriate within the surrounding developments, or if another location would be more appropriate considering the existing developments. We have the choice in who we provide service to through our adopted codes and regulations by allowing or denying approval of those permits. We get to choose the industries that we open our community up to. We have already had questions from surrounding property owners, such as Toolflow and Indris Hauser, questioning the effects of this development should it be approved. We don't have to become like the surrounding area just because of our location. We can maintain Lower Kirby as an attractive destination for future clean industrial development, furthering our existing life science and other industrial users' existing investments. With that, Mayor, I'll hand it back to you.
All right. Thank you for that, Martin. And I see the applicant is queued up. So with that, take it away. Give your name and address for the record and your presentation. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Hi, my name is Lisa Dabrowski-Shete, and I'm here from Windrose Land Services on behalf of the owner, Gold Knight Holdings, and his team who will be speaking more to answer any questions regarding the approval of the CUP application. This is the application for the development at the 24 acres at the northeast corner of Kirby Drive and North Spectrum Boulevard. I have here right alongside me is Robert Farney with PRD to answer any engineering questions.
Hi, Robert Farney. I work at PRD Land Development, address 3463 Woodbine Place, Pearland, Texas. And I just wanted to bring up to the council, we touched base on it at the planning and zoning meeting earlier last month. And any industrial facility that would be coming into this city would trigger this TCEQ requirement that would happen. So if the city is looking to advance in that, that is something similar to a lot of surrounding cities, like I believe Rosenberg, or not Rosenberg, but Rose Sharon and other municipalities that allow this requirement for industrial use is already a requirement in those facilities. So this is just something that would open up for future growth in the area as well.
Good evening, I'm Greg Andrews. I'm the owner of the business with my father over there. We are currently located in Houston, Texas, and I would say that I absolutely love this process that we're going through. We are looking to locate in Pearland because Pearland has rules, Pearland has structure, and I would love, to move our 40-year family business to Pearland. We have approximately about 350 employees, customers such as Chevron, Exxon, Tesla, Ford, Schneider, electrical equipment manufacturers. So we're a diverse base. We have a diverse base of customers, and we've enjoyed this process and enjoyed meeting some of you. But this is land that has sat here for 10 plus, maybe 15 years. We learned about this land whenever we kind of put out our search, and was able to talk to a few of your economic development folks as well. And so here's some renderings coming from planning and zoning questions. They wanted more renderings of what the facility would actually look like. We are coming in this area to follow the rules. We're not asking for any variation or variance, and that's why we like this area, because you have rules, you have good neighbors, good partners. I was able to speak to one of my neighbors today, Andreessen Hauser, and Tool Flow I was able to talk to on the phone today. And so, we want to bring jobs. We want to bring a good business. We want to bring this would be a second generation family business to Pearland. We think this is an ideal part for us, and this really matches our customer base. This building, this area, Pearland, this matches our customer base.
Would it help if we brought these renderings up closer? I don't think anybody can see them. There's some new ones in this set. We had to, planning and zoning asked us to give a couple different renderings.
Staff, do you have some of the renderings? I know that they showed at P&Z. They may change a little bit slightly from that, but maybe you can put those up on the screen as well so people can see somewhat what they're talking about. I know we went through them pretty quickly there. Apologize to the members of the public. We might cover the view up for just a second, but we want to make sure that the council can see some of these as we move through them. There you go. All right.
My name's Jeff Capel, 3622 Willow Springs, Manville, Texas. I'm in the ETJ of Pearland. So I have 2 kids at Pearland ISD. We do business in Pearland. We eat in Pearland. We have professional services my wife and I use in Pearland. And I would love nothing more to have my business in Pearland. So I'll be able to answer any of the technical questions probably on the wastewater issue. I'm sure there will be some of those, but thank you.
Good evening. I'm Perry Seeberger, 2555 Central Parkway, Houston, 77092. I'm representing Seeberger Architecture. We're the firm behind the site plans you see and the various renderings that you see for this project. I just wanted to state that we're ecstatic to have the opportunity to design and get built a project in Pearland and meeting the stringent requirements of the plan unit development. And I'm also very happy to what I think is Greg's vision to place this company somewhere where it can grow for the next 40 years. So they've been about 40 years in one location, and this is the next 40 years. So I see it as a really strategic positioning for the entire company. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude the applicant's presentation? All right, thank you guys for that. Yeah, if you could take those so we can have be able to see the public there, that'd be good. With that, we're going to turn to those in the audience wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Go to the podium, give your name and address for the record, 3 minutes. Second request for those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. All right. Thank you. Ms. Hewitt, you know the drill. Glad to see you tonight.
Thank you. I wasn't going to speak. Denise Hewitt, 3404 Blue Spruce Trail. I guess we're on Christmas card list by now, aren't I? I have like no dog in the hunt, but I did see a slide that went by real quick. It talked about some elements that might be in the wastewater, and I'd like to know what they're going to do with that, because I don't know. I think we already pay enough, and we've got our own issues, right? We don't need to add toxicity to it as well. So if council would be so kind as to take into consideration what that disposal looks like.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request? Yes, sir.
Hello, Matt Stevens, 3607 Skyline Drive, Manville, Texas. Same neighborhood, actually. So I'm with Anderson Hauser. We're the neighbor to the north. So we decided a few areas of concern that we just wanted to address. I had the pleasure to meet these individuals beforehand, so our things would mainly be similar. The water treatment, chemical vapor release, access during and after construction, normal things we want to go through, any additional requirements we would need to have from a safety regulation side of things, access to the natural trail it's being built out, so making sure none of the construction changes there, or at least we're involved in the planning, which sounds like we can coordinate. So those are our concerns. We probably have a few others we want to work through if this goes forward, but just a few things we wanted to mention. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being here. And you wish to speak in favor or against? Joe, go ahead and go to the podium.
My name is Joe Lovell, 2805 Shaywood Lane. I'm also in the ETJ in Pearland. And I'm certain that this company has well thought out their plan. They've been in business for however many years now. And I would encourage the council and planning and zoning to do whatever that you need to do to make this thing happen. I don't think for a second that they're going to purposely contaminate water or anything else. There's ways to address these things. And again, I would encourage you to do those things to help them to get this thing done. Any business that's going to bring that kind of investment and employ that many people in our community is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for being here tonight. And I'll make the last call for those wishing to speak in favor or against this proposed request. Seeing no one moving in that direction, we will move forward in the public hearing to City Council for questions, comments, and concerns. There were several questions asked by members of the public. I think we ought to put those on the table first. First and foremost, the pre-treatment program at $720,000 of cost. my question to staff, is that a cost that is borne by the ratepayers and the enterprise fund, or is that a cost that the business, because of the impact, will step up and make that payment?
So, Mayor, I that is a cost that will be on the city to cover if there's not some other source of revenue to cover that. But so at this point, my understanding is that we would have to cover those costs, and then that would go into the rate model and impact the rates.
Okay. There was the question about the vapor. I know that there's a vapor release, for lack of a better term, so I'll let you address anything around air quality, what's required there from the TCEQ, making sure that obviously your neighbors are concerned about it, but want to make sure we address that.
Sure, we're permitted by TCEQ for air as well as waste. And all of our processes that may have vapors, that would release vapors, we have ventilation. That ventilation goes through a scrubber system and it's discharged as clean air.
Okay. How is that tested? TCEQ tested? Do you perform tests and turn that over to TCEQ? What happens with that?
There's some environmental monitoring that goes on.
Okay. So back on the wastewater, I noticed on your facility rendering, your site plan, you had a wastewater treatment on-site facility. How does that work? How does that ensure that, do you agree we're going to end up spending, if we move forward, $250,000 in this treatment facility?
I can't quantify what that amount would be. I do agree that you're going to have to go to a TPDES, pretreatment system. And to clarify the word system, it doesn't mean a capital expenditure that you have to buy equipment for the city. It's more of a change in your permit that would affect your 5 wastewater treatment plants. And we do have in-house wastewater treatment. We are permitted currently through the City of Houston to meet City of Houston and EPA standards.
Okay. I want to make sure I get all of the questions that were put on the floor by our citizens asked and answered. I believe that was the bulk of them around wastewater and the vapor and any costs associated. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for questions, comments, and concerns. Member Koza?
Yes, my questions are along the same line. These are some pretty nasty elements and chemicals. I live fairly close to Rio Super Site over here that's been an issue for a good long time here in Pearland. Not that y'all would be anything close to that, but the processes that y'all have, of course, the economic impact of $750,000 and then also annual costs that we would be borne upon the city. Could you kind of go through the process on how y'all handle that, what the different things that y'all deal with and how does that?
Sure. So we have several different wastewater streams within our facility. They're all collected and treated, chemically treated, so that the heavy metals that are in solution dissolved come out of solution and they go through a filter press, and we collect those as solid waste and they're hauled off to a landfill as solid waste.
Okay, so y'all are taking care of the majority of whatever the issues with the different elements and chemicals that
yes, sir.
We're dealing with before it hits our part of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So this, I guess for staff, so we're at a CUP here. Would this use be permitted by right in other parts of the city?
Heavy industrial uses would be found in the M2 zoning district. And typically our M2 zoning district is centrally located along 35.
Yes?
Yes.
So they or a competitor could come in and apply for a permit and break ground tomorrow and trigger this $720,000 wastewater issue?
Correct.
Can you correct that? Because I think that from a land use perspective, yes, but I'm not so sure that that's true on the permit for the utilities, right?
That's my understanding in talking to legal is that they would have the right to build that facility, but tying into our wastewater stream would be still subject to our discretion, and it would still carry the same cost.
So just to be clear, they could get a permit for a building, but they couldn't necessarily just by right go and hook up to our utility system.
Okay.
It would still trigger what we need to do on the
It
way.
would require that, but we could say no if we wanted to, and with these concerns, because of the same concerns, yes.
And it's not just that they're an industrial user, it's the chemicals that's going through their system that they're using in the processing. And yes, they treat them, but a certain level of chemicals still go into the wastewater system that goes out into our system. And so that's what kicks in that higher level of requirement by TCEQ.
Okay. And once we meet that testing or this permitting, if this moves forward, then there would be no additional cost for any other user that would move into M2. Am I thinking through that correctly?
That's correct. It may, depending on how many of them we have and which wastewater plants they're going to, may require some additional ongoing testing in addition to what this would.
Okay. Is there a way that we can, require the applicant to bear some or all that cost, and then B, follow up with, I'm sure that they're applying with EDC, but work that into a package so that the EDC helps fund this with the 350 plus jobs coming to town. That'd be a way to keep that 720,000 off the ratepayer and still allow the economic development to move forward.
Excuse me, but that could not be done as part of the CUP process. That would have to be done separately as some other form of agreement with the applicant.
Okay. So whenever the package comes through from the EDC, then I guess speaking for myself, I'd be open to entertain that. And I look forward to it. The renderings look great. Looks like it fit well in in that area. And I'm glad to see the neighbors come out. And I'm sure y'all will work together and make sure the construction goes smoothly. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Member Hernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. So, as was mentioned earlier, I'm just kind of, when you were looking for this particular site, 35 really is kind of what we talk a lot about being our industrial area. Did you have any other sites that were considered? How did you come to choosing this particular site? I'm just kind of curious.
You guys did a fairly good job of marketing this area, Lower Kirby. We were looking at land further west of this location, getting down 35 with possibly maybe some 18-wheelers and pulling into restaurants and such. We didn't feel like that was appropriate. And so, our business buildings and such will match what's going in Lower Kirby. So we felt like this was the right spot.
Good. Can you give me an overview of, you got 350 jobs. Can you give me a profile overview of what those jobs look like?
I would say 250 jobs. Not
250?
Yes, 250
What type of mix of those jobs?
So we have anywhere from labor to machine operator, equipment operators, office work, engineers, plant engineers, robotics operators, forklift drivers, shipping and receiving, kind of from your $15 an hour to $35 an hour employee. We hire, seasonal workforce, in terms of summer, we'll, bring in, would love to bring in some Pearland High School kids and teach them about manufacturing and loading and unloading parts and that kind of stuff.
Cool. A question was asked just now about potential for you to make an investment as it pertains to upgrading whatever permits we need. Is there any interest to make that investment to help bear some of the cost associated with making our system compliant?
Okay. This is, waste can be a dangerous word. And, when you look at every single city surrounding Pearland and it having this program, we're not, I would say that for a city the size of Pearland, I'm surprised you don't have this already. If you have several chemical manufacturers and distributors already in the city of Pearland, What happens when it floods? When it floods? What happens if a hurricane comes? And you don't have this treatment process already kind of verified with TCEQ. I think this would be an enhancement to the city. I don't think this is a true negative thing. I think Pearland has become the size, and you've gotten away with it for a period of time. But I think this would be a positive impact on your city services.
Okay, here's my final question, Mayor. Kind of in that same vein of thought, and I think someone had mentioned earlier, or one of our speakers mentioned that you're going to come in here and your intention is not going to be to pollute our water and things like that, but you've been in business for 4 decades, is that correct? And
Yes,
what is your safety record? Have you had any major incidents? Have you had any issues with City of Houston, EPA?
No, sir. Our industry is measured. It's TRIR, total recordable incident rating. And from an insurance perspective, that's our type of business is registered at a 6.0. At our last report, we were at 0.4.
Okay, well, I'll let Mr. Berry talk about what that means in just a minute. But that's all I've got questions-wise, Mayor. I'll just say that I think there are probably quite a few questions that would require you to go back and maybe get us some more information. And then also, as Member Carbone said, there may be a potential there to talk to our EDC and maybe come up with a package there. So if I'm kind of leaning towards potentially pushing this CUP, if there are some questions that need to be answered, would you be open to that if it came forward?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Good deal. Member Cade?
I thought the renderings looked great. I appreciate you saying y'all want to be good neighbors. I had one question. The $720,000 for the TCEQ program, that benefits, something he said made me, that benefits, go ahead, Clay, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to wait. After
That benefits the whole city, or it just benefits them?
So given that, if I could, I don't know if Robert's the one, the word compliant was used. I think it's important. We are compliant now in this regard. But for the nature of I'll use the word effluent or materials that they would put into the system, that's what triggers it. So it's not like we're not compliant now. It's the users that we have and the volume we have. I mean, it's all well and good to say other people have it, but the Pearland does not have this requirement now. This use and the effluent from theirs would trigger that new elevated level. So that's what triggers the one time, I'll use the word, the rest of it's minimal, the 15 to 20 per year, but that's what caused it. And that would allow then for other heavy industrial users, because once it's in, but the fact is that this is the first one, so they've got that advantage. But Robert, maybe you can talk to explain that better. So
I don't think there's really anything else to add. Mr. Pearson covered it well, but in the end, it would be the first one in. And so that would bear the cost for all 5 plants that would need to be under this, and then establish that citywide pretreatment plan and program that others then down the road would then be able to benefit from.
So it's, if another one comes in tomorrow, they'd benefit from that. If there's nothing else for 5 years, we probably wouldn't have this. So that's the dilemma, I guess, or the first in situation, whether it's at this location or in one of the areas that's actually designated for the heavier industrial areas.
Okay, thank you.
Member Berry?
Yeah, so I did a little research on you guys a while back, a few days ago anyway. I didn't find any TCEQ violations in their database, and it was just a cursory search, but that was the first step for me. Your rating sounds actually wonderful. I do business with quite a few chemical manufacturers in the ship channel and things of that sort currently, and I will tell you that that industry is highly regulated, and there's a lot of requirements and restrictions on that industry. I do like the fact that you're bringing employees and jobs to Pearland and could potentially have use for expansion and things of that sort on the actual property you have. So I would like to find a way to somehow work with you guys, and we will have to get over that cost burden. I understand that. But I feel confident that staff and those guys can work with you guys to come to some sort of agreement in that particular case. But yeah, thank you.
Member Owens, you got anything?
No, I just want to find out from the staff if they've been involved in this in any discussions or anything of that nature at all regarding this from the engineering side?
Just to clarify the question a little bit further, Councilman Owens, are you asking, have we been involved?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So it's been through pre-development, as Mr. Griggs has talked eloquently about. It's been through pre-development, it's been through discussion. Staff has had several meetings. Yes.
Is that it?
I would just add to that, if I could. I think the nature of the development, the location of it has evolved over time. So they have been in pre-development at this site. There was initial contacts for another location or another corridor. They've landed, as was explained here, they were attracted to this lower Kirby area. And then the understanding the nature, because it's new for us too, the nature of their materials and what that would trigger or not, trying to understand that has evolved too over time. So,
with all of that, Mayor, I'll just speak to the applicant here. I would not feel comfortable voting for this evening simply because I think there are a lot of unanswered questions, particularly about what impact is it going to have on our rate model. Obviously, our residents are going to have to, pay into this to have the system upgraded. So, as I mentioned earlier, I would be open to a postponement until we could get some of these answers, both from staff as well as potentially the applicant. But I don't know if there's any other member up here who would be open to that as we move into the next item. But I just wanted to at least say that as it stands, when the item comes forward, I probably would vote against it.
Okay. And we can discuss that when we put the new business item on. And I appreciate you prefacing that. A couple quick questions. We did have some conditions listed by staff. And I want to make sure, because Martin, those conditions that staff mentioned are currently not in the resolution. Is that correct?
Correct. As requested, we always bring resolutions blank, so that way y'all can add the conditions to them.
So if we get to the new business, if we want those conditions on there, they would have to be an amendment to the resolution, adding those conditions to the applicants. Those conditions were, Martin, you might put those up real quick. I know talking about the renderings that you guys showed, basically these would be the renderings that you would bring forward. Obviously, there's a facade and tilt wall that's there currently. The various screenings, vegetative screening that's shown here. The third is the truck court screen there.
Yes, sir, Mayor. The truck court screening, when we addressed with planning and zoning staff and committee last time we were here, we opposed that. Okay. It's not practical, and so we.
So it's also not on any of the other neighbors in that area.
Okay. That's fair. And then the last one was the outdoor. Yeah, and I saw the other rendering where that's screened. Obviously, it's open air, but it's screened. So other than that, so of the four, 3 would be the issue that you would have, correct? All right.
Correct.
All right. Member Koza, you had one other question?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Matt, as far as from an EDC, where would we stand on being able to help the city with that $720,000 estimate?
It'd be something we'd have to talk about. They filled out an application, but we'd have to sit down and figure out what the cost would be and how we'd want to divide those up.
Right. As far as, anything moving forward, would that be something we could put in as a condition to be able to offset?
It's legal. I don't believe we can.
Not as part of a conditional use permit. That wouldn't be an improper part of the consideration for this, so we wouldn't be able to include that, but we can include the development guidelines
down the
part
line.
of this.
And I guess, when we get into an agreement or anything, staff, if we were to move forward with some of this, do y'all foresee some form of development agreement with them? Obviously, we've got water and wastewater considerations. Would this be something that would come back to us in some form of development agreement?
So only if we haven't done many property tax payments, that'd be the one thing that would come to you for sure. So maybe, but I think it's important just for clarity that there's not been an incentive package agreed to at all. And so if that was of interest, whether it's and if the 720 was part of that package and that was all there was, and it just covered the industrial use, that'd make it neutral in terms like an incentive to their bottom line. So, that's why I think it's a little bit timing wise, it might be better to have that talked about and at least vetted through the normal process. They've talked about job numbers, they've talked about types of jobs, but to my knowledge, that hasn't been run through the whole process and a recommendation from the PDC board yet. So.
No, that's fair. And I think we want to kind of have, because we're about to go to a new business item, I would ask now, even before we go to the new business, if we were to postpone, what exact questions would you want asked and answered to come back? Because I think some of this makes sense. We want to see good industrial users in our community. There is an impact to our water and wastewater system. At the same time, we have some unanswered questions. We want to get those questions asked and answered, come back in some appropriate fashion and take a look at it if we get to that point. So what type of questions?
Mayor, if I could ask Darren, because I know postponements have to be made to a specific date, correct? So most of what I'm thinking in my brain has to deal with if they can come up with some type of an agreement with EDC potentially. And so I don't know that we can set a specific date for a postponement, but would it be, could the applicant maybe say that they wanted to at least take it off the agenda, or how would we handle that procedurally? Because I'm thinking.
Well, it can be postponed. I guess I just don't want to be postponed for the sole reason of finding out whether or not you're going to be able to get consideration offered for those improvements that need to be made to the system, and I think because that would be improper, and so I think either you postpone it because you have questions about the use at that location, and if you have those questions that need to be answered,
there were other questions as well, such as I would like to at least see some history of safety record, the processes, what types of so we had a little list here, but just a little bit more on, what your actual operations are going to look like, I think would be very helpful for this particular project. I think I'm going to say it, it sounds scary, but, saying that it's going to have all these triggers associated with it, I just want to have a better idea of, what we're agreeing to, but then also to give you the opportunity to see if there is potential for some type of agreement. Yeah, I'm just procedurally, I don't know how to proceed with that.
How long y'all been working on this site?
Like with any construction site, far too long.
And I guess
this is going on 7 months, and if I hear a delay is on the table, it needs to have, a really quick end date. We need to make a decision.
All the questions you've asked, I've heard good answers to. I guess I don't want to postpone. We need to move forward. And Matt's here so he can hear the direction of putting out a good package that finalizes this and gets it moving forward. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't have those same questions.
Well, I guess one of the big questions also is what the impact is going to be on the residents. Because Ms. Hewitt asked that question directly. Do we have a direct response to that from the staff side?
Well, that's tied up to what Member Carbone said. If the PDC were to cover that, but then honestly, that's just one piece of what a package would be, I would think, but we don't.
Correct. If they don't, we approve this. I mean, it's going to have a direct impact on the rate model. What is that?
Well, right now there's no package, so that's what the problem is.
Correct, but I mean, there's not a guarantee there.
720,000 on the rate model would be what, 1.5%?
1.5%.
1.5%. Okay.
Matt, how many users out there have we not provided some sort of incentive to?
On the Kirby corridor, just be probably 2.
Everybody else has got incentives?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. So I would assume, I guess my backstop is if Matt says we're giving them no incentives, then they're probably going to go somewhere else anyway. So that puts it back on the EDC to close the gap so we don't have a change in rate that affects our residents.
Right. All right. Any other questions, comments from council? Seeing none, move that in that direction. We will close this public hearing and move to new business item number 3. Member Hernandez, would you please put it on the table, and then if we want to talk about postponement, we can talk about it. How's
Yes,
that?
sir. Consideration possible action resolution number R2022-CUP22-14. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We've had staff report, plenty of comments and concerns. Are we ready to vote on it, or do you want to offer a postponement?
Doesn't sound like I had any other council members interested in that, so we'll just.
Okay. Fair enough. That's fair enough. Adam, do we have any other questions, comments? This is a little bit different CUP than we're normally used to. So with that,
Mayor, I will remind you about the conditions if you are.
That was my next thought. Does anyone want to make these conditions as part of it? They did have an issue with 3. Most of them, they were there.
I'll make a motion that we amend the this item to include the 3 recommendations minus the truck screening as suggested by staff in the packet for this evening.
And just to clarify, I believe that would have been recommendations, staff 1, 2, and 4, if I'm not
1,
mistaken.
2, and 4, yes.
As presented in the presentation this evening.
Yes.
Second. We have a motion and a second on a motion to amend. Any questions on that motion to amend? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we're going to vote on the motion to amend, and that is to add conditions 1, 2, and 4 as presented by staff.
Yes. Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Kate?
Aye.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
And Member Carbone?
Aye.
This motion passes to amend 6-0.
So we have an amended motion
Mhm.
on the table. Any other questions, comments on the amended motion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we will vote on the amended motion.
Okay. Member Hernandez?
No.
Member Kate?
Yeah, aye.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
And Member Carbone?
Aye.
The motion passes through 5-1.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here tonight, fellas. Thank you. Moving into public hearing number 4. Martin, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request by Duplantis Design Group, PC, represented by Tyler Eaton, applicant, on behalf of BW Shadow Creek LLC, owner, for approval of a conditional use permit for auto repair minor use on approximately 0.7308 acres of land within the commercial district of the Shadow Creek Ranch Planned Unit Development. This property is generally located at 11219 Shadow Creek Parkway. So as stated, this is for a minor automotive repair facility. This will be new development that specializes in oil changes and oil and tire changes and other minor automotive repair uses. Here is the aerial and zoning map where you can see that this is a portion of the property. The future land use plan indicates this property as retail, offices, and services. The location map shows that there are 2 of these uses within 1 mile, 7 within 2 miles, and 10 within 3 miles. To give you a little bit of history and background on this property, you can see it was all originally Lot D. There have been a few runs at a conditional use permit for this portion of Lot D. There was a development that took place in 2018 on 1/2 of it. There was no new plat at that time, as it had an existing plat. Then again in 2020, there was another conditional use permit for an auto wash. So as you can see from the aerial, there's a fast food site just to the east and the west, major office development to the north, and then some undeveloped property along with some detention to the south. Here are some views of the subject property. Again, looking at either of the restaurants to either side of the property. And then this is the site plan for the property. You can see the 3 oil change bays and then the five tire service bays on the other side of the L-shaped building. Here is their proposed landscape plan. Please note the top grayed out section is where the pipeline is located. This is a rendering of the west elevation showing the tire change bays. Some more renderings of the L-shaped building. And then staff recommended some conditions for approval of this conditional use permit, one of which was to install some additional screening in the form of some large shade trees on the west and east sides, and then a continuous hedgerow with height of 4 foot along the north property line to screen the view of the service bays. The Planning and Zoning Commission conducted their hearing on June 20th. The commission generally discussed placement of the landscaping within the pipeline easement and then future reuse of the building should the business fail to succeed. And then all members stated that they would be in favor of the development. With that, Mayor, I'll pass it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Martin. I see our applicants queued up. Everybody's doing well tonight. They're like ready, willing, and just getting after it. So with that, we'll turn it over to the applicant.
Hi, my name is Andy Golden with Express Oil Change, 1880 South Park Drive, Birmingham, Alabama, 35244. I just wanted to represent Express Oil Change. We're headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama. We have approximately 400 locations, mostly in the Southeast, Texas, the Kansas City market, and then out in the Phoenix, Arizona market. Currently, we have 19 or 20 in the Metro Houston area, so this would be our newest location. We're excited about this potential lot. We think it'll do very well for our business, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, excellent. Does that complete your applicant's presentation report? All right, you might hang out if we have some questions. I'm sure we might. With that, we'll move to those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Go to the podium, give your name and address, 3 minutes to speak. Second attempt, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. And third and final time, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Seeing none, we'll move forward to questions, comments, concerns from council. I guess first one is just the conditions that staff had laid out there. Martin, you might want to put those up. If this is approved, we may have those conditions there. Do you guys have any issues with these conditions that staff laid out there?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. My name is Tyler Eaton with Duplantis Design Group, 14950 Heathrow Forest Parkway, Houston, Texas, 77032. In overall, we do agree with the conditions that staff has given us, and we appreciate you considering the revisions to those conditions laid out in the planning and zoning meeting. However, on condition number 2, on the continuous evergreen hedgerow along the north property line, that will still exist within the Kinder Morgan easement.
Within the what? I'm sorry.
Within the Kinder Morgan easement, the hedgerow. We will try to permit that through Kinder Morgan, but we are not guaranteed that they will approve it. So we just ask for if we get a rejection from Kinder Morgan with those hedges, that be removed.
Okay. With that, council, questions, comments? I don't see any. I'll ask council when we get into new business item number 4 about that one. I mean, maybe we put a time limit on it. Maybe I'm not sure how staff feels on how we do that. Darren, you got any recommendations on that? Because pipeline companies are their own animal. So
I agree, and there's no certainty that's ever going to happen, and so that's going to be up to whether or not council wants to try to consider that. But As far as what type of timeline are you talking about?
Martin, put there you go. So the north side is on the right side of this. Is that correct?
No, this is aligned north. The north property line.
North is up there. Where's the easement?
So this area is shaded out in the light gray. Everything to the north of the screen is within the easement.
Essentially, the north parking stalls are entirely within the easement.
Will they allow you to put those stalls in the easement?
They will allow paving.
They won't allow hedges?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Try not to wrap your head around that one. All right. Sorry. I got you. All right. So with that, any other questions, comments? All right. With that, we'll move to new business item number 4. Member Cade, would you put item number 4 on the agenda?
Consideration and possible action.
Table. Sorry.
That's okay. Resolution number R 2022-CUP 22-15. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We've had staff report and opportunity for questions, comments. I guess the question would be, we would need an amendment on the 2 conditions. Sounds like the hedgerow is an issue, and it's really not an issue with you guys. It's an issue whether or not you can do it with Kinder Morgan. Darren, I agree. I don't know if you ever put a time limit on it, if it's ever effective. So it is the north, and what's north of that is, I believe, a building. How much space is, Martin, between where this hedgerow would be and that building?
So there is limited space in between, which is why we were saying that a hedgerow would probably be a
Gotcha.
easier planting there. We did change it from being full landscaping with trees and pulling it back to just the hedgerow. I might suggest that we maintain number 2, but add some additional language to say that if the pipeline company does not allow it, then this does not become an enforceable portion of the site guidelines for development.
Real quick, have you been in contact with Kinder Morgan and their easement, obviously, to put your parking bays there?
We have not, but we are working off of the basis of the previous car wash development that came before us, and their correspondence with Kinder Morgan and allowing them to provide parking within their easement as well.
Okay. So maybe what it is a condition that it's there. If they get a letter back from Kinder Morgan rejecting it, that would be sufficient to come back to staff that Kinder Morgan has rejected it and we move forward with the development. The requirement's there. If you can get it, that's great. But if they reject it, you show proof that they've rejected it, something of that.
Written confirmation.
Written confirmation.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, the one concern I have again is their timeliness in responding, and I wouldn't want to delay their development or shrubbery.
Mayor, I'll just tell you, I'm looking at Kinder Morgan's right-of-way information, and it says bushes or shrubs should typically be shorter than 4 feet to avoid restricting line of sight. So in what they're putting out there with regard to their easements, they seem to indicate that if you keep the shrubs at 4 feet or less, they should be okay.
Okay. So again, I agree with Member Berry that, you know, at what point, maybe it's all the way up until CO. That gives you plenty of time to move forward. Shrubs are going to be on one of your last pieces anyway. CO, development, permitting, and all of that doesn't get delayed. Maybe it's a CO issue. That gives you plenty of time to go and seek and search. And if you get a rejected, a written confirmation that they don't want it, then it doesn't hold up your CO. If you get confirmation that it's available, then they can put in the shrubs.
Well, they're still going to need to get confirmation to be able to put the pavement over it anyway, and at that same time, they can get a confirmation on the other.
Right. How would we word that in an amendment? Because we do need to have an amendment on the table for both conditions.
Yeah, I still think they're going to need that because they're going to need the for the paving. At what stage would y'all require that?
It would be a part of the site plan, and typically engineering reviews the compliance with the easements for pipelines.
Is that going to be before a building permit's issued?
It's before a building permit is approved.
That's correct. So I would think you would need written confirmation prior to the issuance of a building permit.
And would we not need to change the wording also? Because this says of the height of at least 4 feet, but John, I think, just said it has to be under.
Or a continuous hedgerow with a height to not exceed 4 feet.
Then you can have a
and
nice
you can do a 1-inch
bush.
Yeah.
And that, the parking in that easement is required for them to meet their parking requirement, so we wouldn't be able to issue a building permit until we knew that was.
So it sounds like you can give both of those with one letter. Okay. Remember, Barry, did you have, you said you thought you might have some language there.
Yeah, I think really what we need to do is when they speak to Kinder Morgan about the parking, they'll throw the hedges in there. If they approve the park, they're going to have to approve the parking anyway. Right, based on our requirements. So if they approve the parking and they decline the shrubbery for whatever reason, we waive the requirement for the shrubbery.
Right.
We allow them
So
to move forward.
remember, Kay, do you have some wording there that you can put in an amendment, motion to amend?
I was going to point out the same thing Member Hernandez
Yeah,
said.
so something that along the lines, conditions presented by staff, 1, and then on 2, amend that to say a height to not exceed 4 feet, and then put a time limit on that a written confirmation of no edge allowed by Kinder Morgan.
I'm also, there's no service bays there.
I'm just saying the issue on this one is the hedgerow.
Right. So I think that whole needs to be reworded. Probably.
Well, and I'm seeking to get that reworded right now.
So just to clarify, okay, I believe that what you're talking about is a motion that would include condition number 1 as presented by staff during the presentation this evening, specifically with respect to the large shade tree requirements. The second condition currently states a continuous evergreen hedgerow with height at least 4 feet shall be provided along the north property line. That requirement would still remain, but that would be, instead of at least, it would be not to exceed 4 feet. And it would be subject to written confirmation from the easement holder prior to the issuance of a building permit. And if that is not received, then the condition would no longer be a condition of the CUP.
Sounds good.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the motion to amend. With that, any other questions, comments?
One thing, it's not to exceed 4 feet.
Right. That's what I just said.
But it could be 1 inch then. So can we say? I'm asking for clarification on that.
You're gonna put something in that's a normal.
That I don't think you can find a 1 inch shrubbery to use Member Barry's terminology because I like it.
I don't think you're gonna plant a 1 inch. You're
not
plant
going
something
to,
and you're gonna keep it maintained.
It's gonna be something normal, right?
They're going to need to have something planted properly in accordance with this in order to qualify to get their CO for the building.
And staff's going to figure that on the CO side. Madam Secretary, we're going to call for a vote on the motion to amend.
Okay, Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Barry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Okay, this motion passes.
I didn't get to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hernandez, I'm sorry, I did not.
You were right, it did pass. Aye.
Yeah, Hernandez.
So we have an amended motion on the table. So Madam Secretary, we'll call for a vote on the amended motion.
Okay, Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Barry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
And Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Thank you. This motion passes 6-0 to amend.
All right. Got it done. Thank you, guys. Welcome to town. Let's see if we can get that one done. All right, moving forward in our agenda, Member Barry, would you present the consent agenda? I have not received any items to be removed, so we have consent agenda items A through G. One last call. Anybody want to remove anything? Don't see any. Member Barry, would you present that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through G.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary will call for the vote.
Member Berry,
Aye.
Member Owens,
Aye.
Member Koza,
Aye.
Member Carbone,
Aye.
and Member Hernandez, and
Aye.
Member Kate.
Aye.
Okay, this motion passes 6-0.
All right, we will be moving to new business continued. Before we do, I actually meant to do this at the very start of our meeting, so I thought I'd kind of do it at this break between all the public hearings. But we have a brand-new city secretary that got her start today, and I'd like to welcome Frances Aguilar. If you would, Frances, stand up. Thank you. All right. So today's her first day on the job, and we're going to take her all the way into the night. So we welcome you to Pearland. She's coming to us from the city of Angleton, and I'll tell Mayor Perez how thank you for training you up and sending you this way. So welcome to town. So with that, we're going to move to new business item number 5. Seth, if you'd start moving towards the podium, that'd be great. This Citizens Drainage Bond Advisory Committee. It's an update to council. Mr. Seth Thompson was our committee chair. With that, do we want to do this first? Okay, before you go on, we've got one member of the public that would like to address council on this topic.
All right, J.W. Washington, please give us your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is J.W. Washington. My family and I reside at 2903 Amber Hill Trail, 77581. This evening, I appreciate the opportunity to address the City Council with reference to the Citizens Drainage Bond Advisory Committee update that will occur from Seth here shortly. I look forward to hearing the update and recommendations from Seth and the committee with regards to the potential bond drainage proposal. As candidate for Brazoria Drainage District number 4 on the November 8 ballot, I applaud the City Council's forward-looking approach to addressing existing drainage concerns, especially those identified in the Master Drainage Plan, and partnering with neighboring entities to address them. I would respectfully ask the City Council to plan and allocate funds to not only plan and execute the capital improvement projects identified by the committee, but also to address the maintenance of existing and future city drainage infrastructure. The city has taken proactive approaches to implement and apply drainage standards that meet or exceed Atlas 14 standards, and consequently new developments have generally been positive with regards to drainage mitigation in those developments since 2000. Continued dedicated daily maintenance of existing drainage conveyance and detention facilities are just as important as capital improvement projects, and I ask the council to account and plan for that maintenance, dedicated maintenance with the staff thereof. Understand that adding labor and headcount is something that we have to consider, but without the dedicated maintenance of this, whatever we do with drainage on those capital improvement projects, it could be negligible in terms of those things. In conclusion, excited to see the City Council address drainage concerns in Pearland and look forward to seeing the plan developed, planned, and funded. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Washington, for that. With that, Mr. Thompson, I'll give you the podium. Just give your name and address for the record and take off.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Mayor, council members. My name is Seth Thompson. I'm at 13306 Alder Glen Lane. And tonight I'm here to represent the Pearland Citizens Drainage Committee and provide our update and preliminary recommendation for the drainage bond. Excuse me. The committee held its first meeting on March 23rd of 2022 and continued to meet bi-weekly till June 1st, 2022, at which time we compiled our preliminary recommendations contained herein. The committee reviewed most of the proposed drainage projects, 23 of the 26 in the proposed packages, which included a $90 million, $120 million, and $150 million bond packages under the guidance of City Engineer Raj and Assistant City Engineer Rasika. The committee also met with the Director of Engineering and Public Works, Robert Upton, to understand the city's capacity to perform the potential drainage projects within a reasonable timeline. And lastly, we met with the city's financial advisor, John Roebuck, to understand how the bond issuance process works and the potential tax implications for each proposed package. Subject to the committee's review of the proposed projects after an updated cost estimates are completed when we receive the PERs back, the committee makes a preliminary recommendation for a drainage bond package estimated at approximately $90 million. We use the following criteria. Projects, number one, projects within the city's jurisdiction and responsibility. 2, the projects that would eliminate, reduce, or minimize known structural flooding. 3, projects that can be completed or started within 5 years to optimize cost control. And lastly, 4, the tax implications on the citizens of Pearland. This recommendation is made with the understanding that a number of the needed and worthwhile projects have not made the list, and that these projects will likely need to be conducted in the future for subsequent drainage bond packages. The committee makes the preliminary recommendation that the city implement drainage projects 1 through 23, with the exception of projects 2, 12, and 13, subject to updated cost estimates from the PERs. The names of the projects are as follows: Hickory Slough Regional Detention Pond, Wagon Trail Road, roadside ditches and culverts, Pine Hollow drainage improvements, Veterans drainage improvements from Walnut to Mary's Creek, Isla, North Galveston, and Sherrill Drive, Tranquility Lakes Detention Pump Rehabilitation and Generator, Hickory Slough Pump Station Generator, Hatfield Road from FM 518 to Hickory Slough, Harkey Road drainage from Josephine to Mary's Creek, Longwood Estates roadside ditch and culverts, East Plum, Old Alvin to Berry Rose Road, Fight Road, Harkey to McLean, southwest quadrant of Old Town from McLean to to Highway 35 south of Broadway, Regional Detention Land Acquisition, East and West Circle at Shady Crest, SCR Ocean Point 100-year overflow at Cul-de-sac, Hickory Creek Place subdivision, Garden Acres subdivision, Heritage Miller subdivision, roadside detention, Brooklyn Acres detention, and Fight Road, Harkey to Cullen. These projects on our current estimates are valued at approximately $90 million, and there are currently PERs out for all those projects that we're expecting back later this summer and into the fall. Right now, this is the recommendation of the committee, is to do these projects with an approximate value of $90 million. But we will reconvene once we get the PERs back. I think the first wave will be coming back beginning of September, and then the second wave will be October, November timeframe. We will meet once or twice more to review the updated PERs and ensure it's still in line, but we think the $90 million range is amenable to the citizens. We think it covers a lot. Really what was important to us is that we take a big bite out of this. I mean, there was 26 projects presented, and under this package currently we were able to, yes, sir.
Mayor, you served on this as well as myself and Councilman Kamkar, and it was some late nights and thorough discussion. You summarized it well, but I see a couple of folks in the audience as well that was on the committee, and I just want to thank everybody for their service and staff jumping through hoops and providing all the info. It's a short presentation, which I completely appreciate. But it did well to summarize many hours
Yes.
working together. So thank you.
Raj and Brasika guided us through every project and made sure we understood the complexity of it and why it was important, and we thought that was very beneficial to the committee.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Getting the citizens involved on committees like this is important, especially if we're going to go to the voters with 90 or more, $1 million in bond programs. It's getting the citizens buy-in on the front end of the importance of it. And so to me, it was very critical that we got the citizens involved. It's vetted through that. It was different people from all over the community. There wasn't one end of town or the other end of town wholly. We had people on there that had 3 feet of water in Harvey to get their perspective. And it is, I think it's it's not an exhaustive list of everything that we need in town, but as you said, I think it takes a big bite that's there. To address Mr. Washington's comment, absolutely, that is, if you go look at the priorities in our budget this year, priority number 1 was to make sure that we trued up the last 8 or 10 employees on their pay from last year, and number 2 is that's already been voted on. Not necessarily voted on with a budget, but voted on by this council to make that a priority. And so the baseline budget that comes out will have that enhanced drainage already in it. And I don't think we see anybody wavering on making sure that we do that. I think that's important. We've got miles and miles and miles of pipe, not just open ditch, which you can see. We have pipe that you can't see. And part of that enhanced drainage is making sure that we have the right technology and scoping and whatnot down in there to make sure that it's clear. If a storm is approaching us in the Gulf, you want to make sure it's clear. And so I think it's real important that we do that. Any other questions, comments? Member Fernandez?
I will also echo, thank you so much for your service. And we've started already kind of as a council moving towards making these down payments on getting these engineering reports done. And then we've got this new package we talked about with our update that we're looking at starting with keeping all of our ditches and stuff, clean and maintained. So this is going to serve everybody very, very well. And I know Jim's happy that we got more input. So I really just want to, the mayor's absolutely right. I appreciate all the hard work that goes into this. And so thank you for the presentation.
Member Cade?
I guess these projects were chosen by this group, or were with guidance from staff? How was it?
Yes, staff provided a proposed bond project list. There was 26 in total, and all of them together was $150 million. But we went through and reviewed them, and we were more comfortable at around the 90 million stage. But we were able to get all the projects we think directly affected homeowners. So some of the bigger projects, I don't have the list in front of me, but all of these takes care of all the neighborhoods, all the nuisance flooding and stuff that's accumulated over the years. I mean, we believe this package addresses all of those issues. So it was presented to us, the 26 projects, and we went through project by project, and we came to our list of about 20 projects that we selected for this package.
Let me add to that, Seth. So that first section down there that got us to roughly 60 million. That was the package of projects that would have been in the fee proposal had we moved forward and voted on the drainage fee that everybody talked about some months back. And you had a fee so much per month, per home, per business. Then it had the enhanced maintenance in there, and then it had, as part of the capital improvements, up to that amount. It was the 58 and change. So that was the starting point, because staff had already vetted those projects as necessary to move forward in that. And then the next rung was put down. If you'll recall, the council gave direction initially on 60, 90, or 120, and then we modified that language to 90, 120, and 150. And so staff put, these were additional projects once we started going below that line on amounts that got it into that $90 million range. And the truth is, we've got 87 and change minus the ones that were here. It's really around $85 million as proposed here, $84 million or something like that as proposed here. Our assumption is the PER work will come back higher, not lower. So then the real question is, are we in for all of these projects if it comes out at 95, or where's the number going to be? And that's why we want to reconvene the committee after the PER work is done.
One thing that was important that I wanted to make sure I did here, and that the committee asked that I do, is I read every single project, because it's these projects we selected, not the dollar amount. If we can get, the dollar amount is likely going to go up a little bit based on just how construction costs are right now. But these projects are what we selected, not the dollar amount. We will reconvene once we get it. Of course, if it's astronomical, like 50% increase, we're definitely gonna have to trim it. But I mean, if it's still in the ballpark, I think we feel strongly about getting these projects done.
We've just identified those projects. We hadn't done any kind of preliminary engineering on it.
That's what they're doing now.
Cost.
That's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
PER work is out there now.
PER.
Trent, when's all the PER work anticipated to be back?
So we've got the initial ones that were issued. We'll see those coming back in September, a little bit in August, but mostly in September. And then the most recent ones that we started the process in June, we're looking at having those back in November.
Okay. Is that still timely enough well, I know we don't have to call an election until like February, but does that still give us time to develop what we need to do and call the election?
I believe we'll be able to take those cost estimates coming out of those, plug those in so we can get all of our soft cost identified and have that in front of the committee in that November, December timeframe. I know the committee sunsets in December, but if we get to December and need to extend that to January, I'm sure we will. And we'll still have January, February to be able to finalize everything to call for the election.
Good. Any other questions, comments from council? Would like to recognize Paul down here. Thank you, Paul, for your service on this committee. I'm just trying to look around, see if there was any other committee members here tonight. I know we had members from the Drainage District as well as the Chamber. Each member of council, when we constituted the committee, placed somebody on there. So we thank you for your time and effort. Anything else? Seth, you got anything else to add? No. Can't thank you enough for your time in that and leading that effort. Obviously, we'll get back to you as the PER work comes back to us. We look forward to working with the committee and establishing this bond program and advancing and moving it to the voters. So thank you very much.
Sir, thank you.
All right. With that, we'll move to new business item number 6. Before we do, I just have just one thing. I did get an outreach from member Camcar. He asked for the possibility of moving new business item number 6 to a future agenda. I told him that would be at the request of, I can request council, but it would be up to council whether or not they wanted to do that. So if there's no objection, we can move that to a new, the next agenda if there's no objection. Otherwise, if there's an objection, we will dispense of it tonight.
I would object. I'd like to dispense of it tonight.
So with that, we will move to new business item number 6. Member Owens, would you place new business item number 6 on the table?
Sure. Consideration possible action for the second and final reading of ordinance number 1462-4. Move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Now, another little housekeeping item. 2 weeks ago, we had this on the agenda. We ended up postponing it. But prior to the postponement vote, there was actually a motion to amend by Member Koza, and there was a second by Member Berry. I didn't hear the second. Staff didn't hear the second, but when we went back and reviewed the tape is there. He made the second. So we should have dispensed of that motion prior to even accepting a motion to postpone. So I would like to, out of courtesy, start with Member Koza and then start that discussion from that point. So with that, I'm going to turn to Member Koza if you want to offer your amendment yet again or any other comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to add a couple of comments here. Over the last couple of weeks, we have received 3 emails. The last one was somewhere around 11, 12 o'clock this morning. But one of them was from Kirk Evanson, who had served on the charter review back in 2009. And basically the gist of his email was to confirm that we should not overturn the voice of the voters that voted in 2002 to rescind the strict ethics ordinance or charter language that had us under very strict guidelines. Also, we received an email from Clint Byram that also kind of along that same theme as far as dealing with current council members and business owners. We should not be penalizing them. So the last one came in from Jimmy Davis this morning, and basically his will or his comments were also not to overturn the voice of the voters from 2002. So with that, I would like to put back the amendment that I had put on 2 weeks ago, and I move that the City Council shall not authorize a contract with a member of City Council or a former member of City Council described by this section, or a business entity in which a member of City Council or a former member of City Council has a substantial interest, unless the member of the City Council with a substantial interest complies with state and local regulations requiring the filing of disclosure affidavits stating that the nature and extent of the council member's interest in this matter. The council member abstains from the participation in discussion and any vote on the matter. Also, the city council makes an affirmative finding that the authorization of this contract is in the financial best interest of the city, and that the contract is approved by affirmative vote of no less than 3/4 of the council members present.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second on that to amend what's on the table. With that, that amendment is open for discussion. I'll throw that open to the council for questions, comments, and concerns. Member Hernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. Darren, the first part of that is basically just essentially saying we conform with the existing law. Is that correct? Would this be somewhat redundant?
The language that was proposed at the beginning of that amendment is language that would actually require compliance with Chapter 171 of the Local Government Code, requiring the disclosures. So that is something that would be required under state law regardless. Then the second item that was noted was making an affirmative finding that authorization of the contract is in the financial best interest of the city. That is something that's not currently in the requirements.
What about the abstention portion?
The abstention, that's required.
That's required? Okay. So if we pass this as is, I'm just for the sake of clarity, would it make sense to maybe trim it a little bit so that if our ordinance contains this, it's not redundant? I mean, it's basically saying follow the existing law, but maybe keep the other portions that Member Koza said as far as the requirement of three-fourths of the council. And
I mean, that's up to council. Obviously, you can, and there's redundancy in a lot of the city's ordinances over the years.
Yeah,
And,
I think that was kind of the point of the vote that he had mentioned. Was it back in 2002? Was, I think, as we've done several times with the charter review commissions, is to try to just clean up the language in our charter so we don't have those redundancies and we just kind of defer.
It also, and it does depend on the intent. I mean, if the maker of the motion, if the intent is to reinforce, hey, in these instances, here are the things that will be done, and then that reinforces that, if that's what the intent is, to include that for that purpose, because the Chapter 171 requirement is a separate state law, and so if it's done to sort of bring that reference in, it really depends. Since I didn't make the motion, I don't know what. I don't know what the intent
is. That your?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just kind of a reaffirming statement that this is what we're going to do.
Correct.
Okay, got it. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. I'm fine with that.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, go back over to, we've had some people, like on the engineering side of the business, came off of council into engineering, and now you're saying that those individuals can't have a contract with the city. I mean, it's kind of a delayed deal that they might really want to know.
Actually, this addresses that circumstance. The way I believe the motion that he just made read was that it shall not authorize a contract with a member of city council or a former member of city council described by this section. So it's treating them on the same equal.
But that's just with the city, a contract with the city.
And a contract with the city. Yes.
That is correct.
But a former would still be able to go through the best interest, all of that.
Yes. That is correct.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Madam Secretary, we're going to vote on the motion to amend first. Do we have that? Not necessarily need to reread it. You've got that in a written statement to be able to hand in, but I think everybody understands what we're voting on.
Yes.
Okay. Member Kate, sorry.
I don't think this is necessary. The amendment or the ordinance. I thought about this a long time. At first, I thought, we're in this era of mistrust. We want to, be sure the residents trust us. And I believe what they voted on, 92% for our ethics ordinance in 2002, covers that. And I agree that council should operate under a strict code of ethics, and I think that's already in place. So I don't think the amendment is necessary. I'm sorry. I'm going to vote no on it because I don't think any of this is necessary. I think what we have, this has become very politicized, and I'm going to probably get a lot of hate for saying all this, but I'm going to vote no on all of it. Okay, I'm sorry.
I understand. No apologies necessary. I'm just trying to strengthen it, by a little bit. So that's all it is.
Any other questions? Member Berry, you heading that way? All right. Madam Secretary, we're going to call for the vote on the motion to amend.
Okay. Member Owens,
Aye.
Member Koza,
Aye.
Member Carbone,
Aye.
Member Hernandez,
No.
Member Cade,
No.
and Member Berry.
Aye.
Okay, this motion passes 4-2
So
to
we have
amend.
So we have an amended motion on the table.
Okay. I'd like to address. Thank you, Mayor. I had reached out to Darren prior to this meeting, and I have a few things if we're going to move forward with this. I would like to discuss adding enhanced disclosures to this as well, kind of above and beyond what we've discussed here this evening. So I've got three potential amendments that I would like to discuss real quickly. And well, actually, they kind of fit together, but essentially the enhanced disclosures would include public posting.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
So currently, I just want to make sure, so the motion to amend, so we have okay. I just wanted to make sure.
So it would include public posting of pending or awarded contracts of any amount on an official webpage for each current council member, as well as public posting of any gift disclosures, reimbursements, campaign finance reports on the official webpage for each current council member, as well as a new city webpage dedicated to ethics ordinance and direct links to each council member page, public notices, et cetera, that is visible from the city's homepage. So essentially, any information that we have, any disclosures, reimbursements, gifts that we have pertaining to contracts or just generally ethics in general, I would like for all of that information, Mayor, to be on each individual council member's page. So when you currently go to the city's website, you can click City Council. It'll have all of us listed there. And if you click, on any of our pages, it'll have any pending, current, existing contracts, disclosures. Like I said, even our campaign finance reports, reimbursements, gifts disclosures, all of those things in one easy to access place, as well as a separate web page dedicated to an overview of our ethics ordinance, and then kind of backlinks to those pages to make it easy to find that information. Okay. So if there's any interest in that, I'll put those forward for an amendment.
If I like what you're saying, Member Hernandez, if we don't pass this ethics ordinance tonight, could we still do what he's suggesting with what we have in place now?
Yes.
Thank you.
I guess the question would be to legal and I guess probably the city secretary's office, because this is where it would fall. I don't know, and I agree with everything that you said. I don't know that it needs to be part of the ordinance. I think it can be a procedural issue that staff carries out with direction of council, that we want to see this out on the various pages. Sure. I don't know it needs to be in the ordinance, but I think it can be part of the procedure.
I just wanted to make sure that it was compelled by language somewhere. Sure. So that way, you're not here, I'm not here, the rest of us aren't here, that, in the future, it's like, well, we don't have to do this anymore. Right.
And as far as that goes, I don't have a problem with that, but prior council didn't care and we didn't get it. So it comes from within. It doesn't come from legislation.
Yeah, and I agree. I guess, Darren, would that better fit here, or would it better fit in our rules for procedure for council?
I think it would probably be a different document. And the only reason I state that is, when you look at this and these requirements, what this is stating is essentially these are requirements for officers. Okay, so there's a requirement here. There's state law that's going to require you under 171 and 176 to file those. Chapter 176 already requires that we put those and disclose those on our website. So these are requirements that imposes conditions upon you in order to comply with this ordinance. The things that we're talking about now would be more of things that will shift to staff on how we're going to put this information out to the public. And so I don't know necessarily there's a perfect place for it to fit into this ordinance. However, whether it be if the council wants to consider doing that through the city council rules and indicating, but again, that's rules applicable to city council and generally how you do your meetings and stuff. But on the other hand, it's something that can be administratively done and implemented and then run by council to say, hey, here's a new website that's been created on the city's secretary's website. Here's how it's going to be structured, formatted, informational, introductory informational material with respect to Chapter 171, 176, and different requirements of the City Council, as well as the ethics ordinance.
Just kind of why I'm wondering I know the procedures are around council meetings, but it's also around just council conduct in general. I think there's comments in there about social media. There's comments about, how we conduct ourselves. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't better fit in that. It would be compelled, it would be in writing, it would be something that we would vote on. I just don't know that it needs to be part of this. Sure. I think they're all good. And I think anytime we can make it easier for our folks to find the information, even though I think our city secretary's office was way ahead of the game in putting up campaign finance reports. By the way, they're all due on Friday, so don't forget. Since we're here, I might as well compel you to make sure you get them in.
Mine's already in.
Mine too. But just go ahead and I like it. It's on that page. It's not necessarily elsewhere. I do like a dedicated page just talking about our ethics ordinance and what it is. I think there's misconceptions of what we have to operate under anyway. So it would all be out there for people to see. And maybe it's handled in that procedural
that's fine.
document,
So I don't have to have an amendment tonight then, as long as staff has the direction and it sounds like there's some agreement up here. However you want to package it and bring it back, I'd be open to that. Thank you, Mayor.
Member Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't know how we got here to have so much conversation on ethics and moral values and things of that sort that we actually have to come up with an ethics ordinance to determine how we function as citizens of a city that we desire to live in. That, to me, is just appalling, and it's really sad. So I'm for whatever it is y'all want. I mean, I don't really care. I mean, if I need to do a financial disclosure or whatever it might be, I'm good with that too. But it's just a sad state of affairs. I'm sorry.
I agree. But I think the good news is we've got conflicts do arise. I mean, it happens. And if you've been in a community any length of time, you know someone, you know a business, or you do business or whatever, and it's just a matter of time before a conflict gets put out there. The ordinance is really about how do we deal with a conflict when it rises. It shouldn't be there to penalize somebody, a business owner or anybody like that from doing business. It's there, what do we do when the conflict arises? And I think this kind of addresses it. It does strengthen it a little bit. I don't think it overturns the will of the people in really following state law. But if a certain type of instance arises, it was interesting. I was going to ask Darren this question. Darren, you've been here for 26 years. I guess I'll look around the room. I've been involved 30 years. Woody's been on and off council for the last 22 years. Darren, has there ever been a time since you've been here that the city council has actually contracted with a member of council or a business that the city council member had an ownership interest?
Never have.
I'm not aware of one.
So it goes to Member Barry's point. I think I don't want to trivialize the issue. I think it's important that we talk about it, but I think we've made it more than it is. There is political ramifications if something like that were to come, and the reason why you haven't seen it is people don't want to face those political ramifications. And I think that big stick is probably the biggest deterrent to doing it in the first place. So I agree with you. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor, that I've been in the engineering business for 40 years, and any company I ever worked with, I would not let them bid on anything or do engineering work with the city of Pearland, just because I was here and I didn't want to vote against them. if the contract come up, because they were all friends in those places there. I think it's, I think a lot of things that we're doing on limiting people to do it, I think I don't know if we should do it on the people in the past. I think we should do it on this council and mayor going forward. I mean, I hate for something to change on the individual that served 5 or 6 years on city council, 10 years ago, and you bring them in the mix now, they can't do this type of business or whatever. I would say, I think from my standpoint, like I said, I've been within engineering all my life, and I'll never let anybody, my son's in the engineering side. I don't let him come to Pearland to try to get jobs from there. I'm not going to do it because come up here and I have to vote on it. But, the thing about it is that, we just need to move forward with it, but it's a difficult situation, to do that, but we all understand sitting from this council going forward, that you're very limited. You can't do anything on it. I mean,
and I guess my response to that would be it doesn't prohibit a former council member. What it does is it checks a box, and there's a certain procedure that former council member will have to go through in order to have a contract. If I understand it correctly, it doesn't prohibit, but it does give a different level of consideration, the 3/4 vote and those types of things, and it has to be determined in the best interest of the city. And again, staff, I would hope, wouldn't bring a contract to city council unless it was in our best interest.
Yeah.
And so it's been through some vetting process, and it has the opportunity for scrutiny in front of this council, has opportunity for scrutiny in front of so it's not hindering them from doing it.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more scrutiny if they do.
Yeah, and like I say, I've stayed away from it. My family stayed away from it. Anything trying to do any business with the city, but I just, think at this step going forward, that's what we do. But people that have already been on council and people, the mayor's a different position because Tom was here for eons. Yeah. But to come in and set something against an engineering or a firm doing anything at this late stage of the game, if they've already been here and gone, then I think it's a little bit more difficult to do. But
like
everybody's sitting at this table right
okay.
now. That's where
it doesn't hinder them from doing business. It's just an extra level of scrutiny if they do. And we do have in the ordinance the 12 months. So this doesn't change the 12 months, but after the 12 months, they are allowed to. It's just one level more of scrutiny, but it still allows them to do it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't disallow them. Well, they're able to do it. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor, if I could just, to provide some clarity to Councilmember Hernandez and his recommendation, I just pulled up the city council rules, which we usually have to go back and look at it periodically anyway to make some modifications. And there is a good place in that. It's actually section 11 of that, which deals with ethical standards. And there's sections A, B, C, D, and E. And E talks about implementing the purpose and principles. And one of the implementation of that would be sort of in the reporting mechanism there. And so that would possibly be a good area to include the recommendations made by the council member.
And we can, I'd say if it takes formal action, I'd say we bring that back to the next meeting. That way it's informal action and we can move forward with that. That's good to me. Don't need to. I can call for it. So, all right. Everybody ready to vote on this? Madam Secretary, we're going to call on the vote for the amended motion.
What was the amendment for? Make sure I got it in my brain.
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, what it really is.
All right. The amendment is.
I'd rather him know what he's voting on.
That's fine. That's fine. It's not a liquor store, Woody.
Yeah, I want nobody to sneak something in.
The city council shall not authorize a contract with a member of city council or a former member of city council described by this section, or a business entity in which a member of city council or the former member of city council has a substantial interest unless, 1, the member of city council with a substantial interest complies with the state and local regulations requiring the filing of disclosure affidavits stating the nature and extent of the council member's interest in the matter. The council member abstains from the participation in the discussion and of any vote of that matter. And the city council makes an affirmative finding that the authorization of the contract is in the financial best interest of the city. And the contract is approved by an affirmative vote of no less than 3/4 of the council members present.
Yeah, that would stop. We did have a council member that's off of it now, but an engineer and has his own company. And actually, he's probably one of the better engineers in this part of the country, and his firm is too. And so, but since he's on council, he can't have a contract with the city.
He could.
But it would require three-quarters of a vote of the council members.
Would it get that far?
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you how until you got there.
The contract would have to be compelling, and it would have to be viewed in the best interest of the city by the council.
Yeah, so staff would have to say it's worthwhile, send it to us, and then we would have to affirm that yes or no, depending on which way.
Which means they've gone through a vetting process to get there. Not just selected one, but they've had that vetting process to get there.
Yeah.
With that, Madam Secretary, we're going to call for the vote.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
No.
Member Cade?
No.
Member Berry?
Aye.
And Member Owens?
No.
Okay, so this is a 3-3 vote, which is a tie. So Mayor,
And the chair votes aye.
So this one, the item as amended passes with a vote for 4-3.
Okay, with that, we're back to Mr. Koza. Item number 7, please.
Oh, sorry about that. Consideration and possible action regarding options for transitioning from the adopted 3230 water billing plan. So moved.
Second, Hernandez.
Motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the last meeting, there was a consensus to bring back options for ending the 3230 plan that was adopted by Council a year and a half ago. Back to you. So we've done that, and Ms. Johnson has a overview of that, and I'll go through that now.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Last month, we talked briefly about bringing back options for the 3230, and so staff has been putting those together for council's consideration. Tonight, we present to you 3 options. The global assumptions on all of these options are to bring the billing gap back to an acceptable 10 to 15 days. We have a goal of ending the 3230 plan earlier than the schedule currently provides for, which was November of 2022 for bill dates in 3 cycles, with a 4th cycle getting to 15 days in March of 2023. The bill would be due 24 calendar days after the bill date in compliance with our ordinance. And the bill date would be at least 2 business days after the previous bill due date, and that allows staff the time to process that bill and apply the appropriate credit to the customer's account. We would revert back to pre-3230 tiers after the last 32-day bill. With all of these options, it's important to note that the customers continue to pay for actual usage. There is no extra billing for water not used, just a timing issue for when it is paid. There will be 12 base charges per calendar year, as we have been doing since 3230 came on. The new rates for FY23 will be adopted in September, as we usually do, and they'll go into effect for usage starting in October based on budget discussions and the final rate model. This slide provides an overview of the options for you. Option 1 accelerates the bill dates for all the cycles. There is no ordinance required for tonight in order to implement that. It gives an end time of an October bill, and it has a bill frequency of 3 bills within an 84 to 88 day window. It impacts all of the customers in the city. Option number 2 accelerates the bill dates for cycle 14 only. It also does not require an ordinance tonight. The end time would be in November, and it provides for 3 bills in 85 days only for cycle 14. This option only impacts 36% of the customers. What that tells you is there's a little bit less opportunity for mistake because we don't have to impact all the customers. Option 3 is a 1 bill true-up for all accounts. That does require an ordinance tonight, which is the next item on the agenda. If you guys choose to proceed with that option, that would also end us in October, just like option 1. And that provides for 3 bills in a 90 to 97 day window. And that one as well impacts all of the customers. Some details about option 1. This one is the one that accelerates bill dates for all the cycles. We propose that, or the proposed end for this plan would be in October. We would continue to bill for a 32-day read cycle. We would accelerate the billing from every 30 days to every 27 to 29 days. It impacts all the customers. Again, the 3 bills due within 84 to 88 days versus 90 days as it's currently scheduled. No ordinance. And then in November, we would return to a monthly read cycle and the pre-3230 tiers. And we would not need an ordinance change tonight. And this just maps out in a calendar form the information that I just shared with you. Option 2 accelerates the bill dates only for cycle 14. The 3230 plan naturally ends in November for cycles 11, 12, and 13, with all bills due in December. If we accelerate cycle 14 from billing every 30 days to every 28 to 29 days, it would end in November. And it would impact approximately 14,000 customers versus all 39,000 customers. Cycle 14 would have 3 bills due within 85 days versus the 90 days of the current plan 3230. And in December, we would return to a monthly read cycle and the pre-3230 tiers. Again, no ordinance change required for tonight. And this is the kind of the calendar illustration again of what I've just gone over with you. Option 3 is a 1 bill true-up. The proposed end of this one would be in October. We would finalize all accounts with 1 bill in October on a 41-day read cycle. This would require an immediate ordinance change tonight. The earliest effective date would be August 4th to allow for a second reading and the publication as required by law. We would adjust the tier structure to 41 read days covering late August through early October usage. It would impact all the customers, and there would be 3 bills due within 90 to 97 days versus the current plan we're under of 90 days. In November, we would return to a monthly read cycle and the pre-3230 tiers. And again, we must pass the ordinance tonight and have the second reading at the next meeting. Again, not needed for the first 2 options. And this is the calendar view of those. We also ran, I'm going to run through these slides fairly quickly, but these are some possible true-up comparisons of what the impact would be on various account holders. This is your average residential account. The average residential user uses approximately 6,000 gallons a month. So this one would be, if we chose option 3, it would be an impact of about $4 a bill on this resident. If you doubled that usage, maybe you have a large lot, also residential, you're looking at approximately $13 a month or for that extra bill. Option 3 for the small office account, it doesn't look like there's much of an impact there. The commercial account would have approximately $106. The fast food restaurant would be $169. And like a sit-down restaurant would be much higher at $774. Some other issues that we examined with regard to the conversation last month, the forgiveness credit. You might recall that the enterprise fund is already operating at a deficit, so any forgiveness program is going to further exacerbate that. The water and sewer rates are already estimated to increase approximately 13%, 9%, and 28% over the next 3 years. You might remember when we went through our early budget input session, we went over those rate models with you. The forgiveness credit would result in higher rate increases to remain compliant with bond covenants and financial policies. A forgiveness credit from the general fund would place the cost of water service on property and sales taxpayers and not the water users. So we don't recommend going that route. Enterprise funds are designed to operate as a business, and commingling the money inhibits its ability to be self-sustaining. We reviewed Mr. Davis's submittal. We called it the 32-19 to 26 plan. The second bill will reflect the previous month's bill as past due. The auto pay customers would have both months auto paid on the first due date. These are systemic issues, the way our billing system is set up. And there would be 3 bills due within 79 to 86 days versus the 90 days. So in conclusion, we have the option 1 ends 32/30 in October, impacts every customer in the city, and has 3 bills over a shorter time period for all customers. Option 2 ends 32/30 in November, impacts approximately 14,000 customers, and has 3 bills over a shorter period for only 14,000 customers. Option 3 would end 32/30 in October, also impacts every customer, and has 3 bills over a longer time period for all customers, but also for a longer consumption period. Advantages for each option: we have the earlier completion of 32/30 catch-up plan. We have a clean start with standardized billing. We can do the 10 to 15 day billing gap. The reading period, 30-31 days to incorporate the whole 365 days in a year. And we could have set due dates. The risks for each option are public confusion. We have more bills in a shorter time or higher consumption due to the 41-day bill for the one option. Increased number of individual payment plans to set up and administer, and increased manual changes. So those are your risks and those are your advantages for each option. And tonight, staff is asking council for direction on how to proceed with these. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Does that complete staff report, Clay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you, staff, for putting those together, especially in a couple weeks' time. Obviously, 32/30 is something we've been talking about as a city for quite some time. My thoughts real quick, and I'm going to turn it, this was put on the agenda by Member Koza, seconded by Member Berry, so I want you guys to speak to it. I think anything that can complete and get 32/30 done faster is good. It checks a box. It gets that part of it over with. Obviously, there's 3 different options here, and there's impact in any which way we go, and we need to wrestle with that. So with that, turn it to Mr. Koza. I know you guys put it on the agenda, so take that away.
So let me just, looking at this right here, option 1, I would kind of call it a Jimmy Davis spinoff. It seems like looking at it, it's very similar. There's a few little minor quirk changes. Option 2 is kind of we've got 3 out of the 4 cycles on 32/30, with 1 being brought up into compliance to where instead of having a 4-month lag, everybody comes in to finish it at the same time. And then option 3, I would call just the 32/30 with a true-up bill. Is that what I'm looking at here?
I think you summarized them very well. In fact, we called it the spinoff internally ourselves. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, we got to give Jimmy a little credit.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's in the write-up.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So for that and looking at it, I mean, I would be in favor of option 1. It gets us ahead of schedule 2 months more before what we were on 32/30, plus quite a bit more on cycle 14. And that's where I'd be on that.
Member Berry?
Same here. I really like the idea that it's sooner than later. It gives us 2 months to kind of get our ducks in a row, so to speak, before the beginning of the year, so we can actually monitor a full 365-day cycle. So option 1 seems to be that. I mean, obviously, we're going to have to let things settle for a month or two, get our schedules correct, right, and make sure that for the first month of November and December, that everything is running as scheduled, and we're off to the races for 2023. So that's my suggestion.
Any other thoughts? Member Carbone?
Yeah, I'm fine with one or two, but I'll make it 3 votes to option 1.
I'm leaning towards 2. I mean, it's a month difference, but I really, anything that we do, I try to make it so that we can let the impacted customers know. And I think working with 14,000 instead of all of our customers, telling them there's a shift in the plan. I think with the other cycles ending on that same timeline, just, focusing on those 14,000, make sure that they're acutely aware of what's happening, to me is the best option. And I know that some of the people out here, Denise is probably going to jump up out of her seat if I vote to end this plan at all. But yeah, so if I do vote to or move, I guess to in a direction to end 3230, I would be more prone to supporting option 2.
Member Cade?
I probably lean towards option 1 if I had to pick one.
Member Owens, you got any thoughts? I hear you. So does somebody want to, sounds like we've got 4 options for option 1. Does somebody want to make an amendment to place on the table?
I'll amend to consider and possible action on option 1 to end the 3230 billing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, motion to amend, and a second. Any questions or comments on that motion to amend? I have one, and that's really the communication plan. So I'm, call on Josh and others. Obviously, we'll have to develop a communication plan on how, what, and where to inform all customers of what we're doing. So kind of turn that over to you.
Yes, sir. So fortunately, we have a lot of attention on Pearland Water, and so a lot of people that are willing to share that content, and a lot of vehicles for communicating with all of our customers with utility bill inserts, our website, dedicated social accounts, the Pearland Water brand, and everything in between. So I'm confident we'll be able to communicate this as well as we can. There's always a rule of thumb that we're not going to hit 10% of our audience, but it won't be for lack of trying.
I'd like to say the last communication you did quite well, so as long as you continue down that path, we'll do well.
Any other questions, comments from council? All right, Madam Secretary, we're going to vote on the motion to amend, and that is to accept option 1 as presented by council.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
I feel like such a negative Nancy tonight. No, not that Nancy, a different Nancy.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Okay, this motion passed to amend 5 to 1.
We have a amended motion on the table. That is to go with option 1. So any other questions, comments on that? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote on the amended motion.
Okay, Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Not my preference, but I'll go along with the crowd tonight. Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
This item is amended 6-0, passes.
All right, thank you for that. And be looking forward to the communication piece, really gearing up sooner rather than later and often so people understand where we're headed. Moving forward, item number 8, Member Carbone, you take care of that, please.
Pass over that.
Oh, we can pass over because it didn't require it. That's right. So Member Carbone, if you would take number 9.
Thank you, Mayor. Council discussion and input regarding the CDBG program.
Second.
Where is?
Mr. Hardy, we get to hear his sweet voice talk about CDBG and the upcoming program year plan. So.
Thank you, Clay. Mayor and Council, this is a good opportunity, I believe, considering the adjustments, new members to the dais, to kind of hallmark the opportunity to talk about our Community Development Block Grant Program, specifically since we're embarking on the fourth consolidated plan, which is a 5-year long-term outlook for how we approach the Community Development Block Grant and spend within that time frame. So I welcome you all to listen for a few and ask questions at the end, provide discussion and comments. We're going to embark on the plan process, which would culminate in mid-October with a adoption or to council's liking if the plan suits the council, and we would submit that to HUD immediately thereafter. So just to kind of give a background, some of you are familiar, but for those who aren't, CDBG is a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development program, stems from the passing of the Housing and Community Development Act in 1974. If you're a city over 50,000, you become an entitlement and automatically receive these funds based on a formula allocation HUD conducts every year. The same would go for counties over 200,000. CDBG is a flexible spending program that the spending is at the discretion of the entitlement with certain HUD regulations and federal uniform guidance applicable. You'll see us talk about 24 CFR 570 a lot, as well as 2 CFR Part 200, which is the uniform guidance that applies to all federal programs. And again, I mentioned it's a flexible spending program. A lot of people think it's a very rigid program. We can do just about anything within HUD regulation with this money, from housing, community development, facility improvements, economic development programs. There's a variety of things that we can engage in to address the unmet needs in the community. The primary purpose of the program is to remove slum and blight, meet local urgent needs such as a hurricane or, for example, the coronavirus disaster. The pandemic was considered something that HUD funds could be used for, and other catastrophic events that might affect us nationally or the entire community. But primarily the program is designed to meet the HUD national objective of serving low to moderate income people in the community. And definitively that's someone or a household that is at or below 80% of the metropolitan statistical area income level. And if we were talking about an area benefit project, like a drainage project or something like that, the area that's impacted by that project would have to be comprised of 51% or more low to moderate income. One thing I want to point out is Pearland is a what's called exception criteria community because we have a very low poverty rate and our census tract population is not comprised in any census tract in Pearland of 51% or more. We get a break on that, so our recalculated area benefit percentage is more like 45%, and that can change every year with the recalculation. One of the things I'd like to stress is what the program is not for our community, and I've probably not talked about this a lot, but we get a lot of comments and concerns from the community. We want to kind of lay those and put those to rest. This is not a program that for Pearland would bring Section 8 programs or public housing. We're not what's called a participating jurisdiction because our poverty rate, of course, is very low. We are not a public housing authority. That's something that the county operates, and those functions do not come into our boundaries when it comes to their vouchers or anything like that. So we don't have any housing entities that accept Section 8 vouchers in Pearland, with the exception of one that we annexed many, many years ago, and that's in the southern portion of the community. This program, again, is not one that takes away any loss of control or on the spending priorities. The consolidated plan process, of course, is designed to make sure that we have local control over how we spend these dollars. And on an annual basis, we get to manage that as well with the annual action plan. The last thing I'll say is it's not a race, ethnicity, or other demography-driven program. It's strictly focused on low to moderate income eligibility. So I talked a little bit about the income limit, 80% of the metropolitan statistical area income for Pearland, which is at $107,000 right now. The table gives you an idea of what that looks like on a persons and family basis. And if you look at the typical 4-member household, you've got the income limits that apply for your low, extremely low, and very low income areas. So I talked about an area benefit project, like a drainage project or something that benefits more than one household. That's where we would look at a census block group, for example, and that block group or that service area would have to be comprised of 51% or more low to moderate income in most circumstances. But for Pearland right now, we're at 45%. So we pick out the block groups that make up 45% or more low to moderate income, and we throw those on a map, and that gives us an idea of where we can plot certain activities. Just to give an idea of what the method of distribution looks like, HUD uses 2 formulas to kind of determine what communities get, Formula A and Formula B, and they're actually called that. We fall in the Formula A category, as the information in the packet shows, because we don't have as much pre-1940s housing. So we're going to fall into the other category as to how they program our dollars. So what that's resulted in over the course of the last 15 years has been about $6 million in allocations from HUD. And this chart kind of sections off each era of our spending based on the 5-year consolidated plan process. The first year, 2007, doesn't have a consolidated plan attached to it because we got our money from Brazoria County. So at the time, we were a subrecipient, and for many years prior to that, we'd get whatever we needed from the county. You do see some years where you've got some allocations that represent more than one program year, and that's because we've received stimulus money from HUD in the past. So in 2010, we received about $73,000 from HUD for the recession of that area. And we've also received a duplicate year allocation in 21 due to coronavirus, where we got $695,000 from HUD for those purposes as well. So we're wrapping up our 3rd consolidated plan year, but we still have dollars that we are spending that represent current and pending projects that are in progress. So if this chart is confusing, it's because you've got the allocation in some of those bars, as well as the unspent balance, which means we haven't completed those projects and drawn those funds down yet. This table kind of gives you an idea of where we've spent money that in the most recent years has been allocated to the city from HUD. So we've got about $2.1 million that's currently available that we've programmed in certain projects and activities. And as you progress from left to right, you can see what areas we spent those dollars in and where they're allocated. Right now, we've got about $268,000 that is unprogrammed, and that's just cumulatively from years of unspent funds that we didn't reprogram. We have the ability to use those dollars for a specified project, and we'll just need to identify that project and move forward with it as far as throwing it in an action plan and determining how we use it. At this point, I think we're going to work on using that for the NAP Center improvements that are currently proposed. So just to give you an idea of what the consolidated plan process looks like, if you looked at it from an org chart perspective, it's the overarching plan, and you've got 5-year action plans that fall into that. Each year, HUD will let us know at some point what our allocation amount is prior to our planning process. So right now, all we have in hand is our allocation notice for the $478,854 that will be spent in program year 22, which is our fiscal year 23. So one thing I want to make clear is HUD's program year is a year behind numerically than our fiscal year because they're on a different fiscal cycle. So we use those interchangeably, but HUD does require that we reference their program year when we're doing this work. So we kind of have to make sure we're clear with the public and in our process. So the consolidated plan is basically a way for us to identify and prioritize housing and community development needs in the community. So we get an opportunity to look at the local housing conditions, the economy. We analyze our social services complex. We look at the nonprofits in town, what they're doing, where the data shows us that there's a need for us to address certain issues. We look at our public infrastructure and things like that and try to find ways to use these dollars to make improvements, whether it might be dilapidation or aging or disaster impacts or anything like that. And we take those dollars and allocate them accordingly as we put our plan together. And ultimately that plan identifies the kind of work we'll do over the 5-year period. Some of the planning data that we'll use involves Census Bureau data. We look to focus on the comprehensive housing affordability strategy data. That's something that HUD requires us to look at. It shows us what our housing cost burdens look like in the community and basically gives us an idea of the type of housing programs that we can put into effect. We also do a local consolidated plan survey that's out right now. We'll make sure that that gets shed some light on as far as council and the public's ability to see that. Right now, it's been sent through the communications department's survey protocol. We'll be making sure that's publicly available in other ways as we proceed through the process. But we also look at rental marketplace data, information that's coming to us from the Greater Houston Partnership in the form of the Regional Economic Forecast, and we look at Texas Workforce Commission data as well. Last slide kind of gives us a schedule of activities. We've got some key dates that are coming along. One thing I'll point out that's a little bit problematic for us is we got our allocation notice very late from HUD. As you can see, this was executed by HUD in May, mid-May. We didn't receive this until June 14th, unfortunately. So it does kind of put us behind the 8 ball as far as planning is concerned. But we've got a schedule in place that allows us to recuperate and get this work done so we can submit the plan to HUD accordingly. But the public comment period will open after our public notice appears in the paper this Wednesday. So starting off on the 14th, we'll have 30 days to allow the public to be involved in the process. We'll host another public hearing as we do with all of our planning processes involving HUD CDBG on the 25th at the regular meeting. And we will piece all this together and present back to you all on the 8th of August at your regular meeting for council adoption. And then after that, we put the plan together and submit it to HUD. So that's it for my presentation, Mayor. Pass back the balance to council for questions.
All right. Are you, what are you looking for us tonight on?
I'm hoping that if there are any questions from new members, particularly about the program and what we've done or what we need to do to get this work done, we can answer those because they're new members on the dais and also kind of set the stage for what the planning process looks like over the next month.
Okay. So with that, we'll turn to council for questions, comments, concerns on kind of where and how we move forward. Anything? Member Koza?
Just out of curiosity on where you had through the years where we spent almost everything. I assume that was when we were dealing with the county, looking at the chart that you have right here.
Yes, so even before 2007, we received HUD money through Brazoria County before we were in entitlement for several years as a subrecipient. So through their process, they would reach out to local communities in the county and say, hey, we've got this money. What would you like to do? We have subrecipient, funds available. And we would typically use those things for small projects. We bought a van for the NAP Center and did some other things that we could do with a small amount of money.
Okay, because then, like from 19 to 22, it's showing that we still have a balance. Is that because we haven't allocated it yet? Is that what that is?
We've identified the projects. They've been accepted and approved by HUD, but they're pending or ongoing. So we just haven't drawn those funds down because they're in progress.
Okay. And then the map that you had of that right there. So when we're looking at it, I assume the pink or reddish area, that's the areas that you're looking at to be able to impact? Is that
correct? And the pop out is actually what it looked like the year prior.
Okay.
And I just wanted to demonstrate, and I apologize for not going into discussion there. It does change. So it can change from year to year as the census demography changes. So we kind of look every year for HUD to produce a new set of data, and we put this map together based on that. This area is kind of the safe zone because it doesn't involve block groups that go outside the jurisdiction, and we can be assured that we're dealing with definitive income statistics when we go into those areas.
So along Main Street, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Street, I don't see anything in that area highlighted. And I know the homes, there was one, I think it was on 2nd Street, that was actually demolished and taken away. Is that something that went through this program, or is that?
No, but we can do spot basis slum and blight demolition and clearance. So if there are multiple homes, for example, on a street that might fall into that category, we could use these funds for that purpose. And I think we've got $20,000 allocated just in case there's a situation that complies, and we can use those dollars as such. We like to look for those, and through SNAP and code enforcement, if we identify a situation that involves some properties that need to be demolished and they fit the HUD requirement, we can use these dollars for that purpose. So we've already got a project that's available to use those kinds of dollars.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I enhance a little bit of that? Correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, but there's a difference between area benefits and individual benefits. So another way to put that is we can do a project in there, whether it's streets or sidewalks, et cetera, for the area benefit of that. If we give an individual check, like what we do with the minor home rehab program, then that individual has to prove up they're eligible. You know what I'm saying? So that's
so you can, by a case-by-case basis,
when you're doing an individual benefit, like I'm helping you improve your house to bring up to code compliance, and you've got to do case-by-case to prove up your eligibility. But we can do a project in these areas, and by default, then
a little bit easier.
Exactly.
Correct.
A lot easier. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Could you go back, Joel, to 8?
So slide 8.
Yeah. So just to be clear, 22 is what we're going to be talking about, right?
23, actually. So that's not included in this because these are sectioned off based on the 5-year consolidated plan years.
Okay. So we've been in a little bit of a fight with HUD, and we've gotten through that. So now we're going to get after these 21s, and you notice there's 2 21s. So and there's a backlog, if you will, that we've got to get after, and COVID didn't help, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we're at right now.
All right, thank you.
I'd just like to thank Joel. You always do a great work staying on top of this and explaining it to us. So I look forward to the future public hearings and everything else to go through the allocation.
Any other questions, comments? Member Barry?
Hey, Joel, thank you very much. I much appreciate all the information. You're very clear, concise, and complete on your explanation. But I do have one question. EDC does some work for demo and things like that around the city. Do y'all coordinate funds in any way, or is that a separate activity?
As I mentioned in response to Member Koza's question, that's kind of I think the EDC SNAP committee work, the Safe Neighborhoods program that we operate. Some of those things ultimately might highlight a situation that we can address dilapidation, if that's what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. And so we can use these funds like that in certain situations.
If I could, Dixie Farm was a prime example of that, where we did major demolitions on blighted area, right?
Correct.
Yeah. It was EDC money, if I'm correct, and it was coordinated with these kinds of same look at the project.
Right. We got a seat at the table, and we make sure that if there's a situation that can benefit from these dollars, we'll use them.
And so if I read this correctly, we have $268,000 that are unallocated. And you mentioned that maybe you had a home for that with the NAP Center.
Yeah, so just going back and forth between these two slides, the 695 amount for 21. Actually, I apologize. The 428 amount for 21 and the 462 amount for 22 both have allocations that are going towards the NAP Center for facility improvements. And I think those costs are going to come in higher, and we want to make sure we can get a good solid scope of work for the plans there. And that 268 could be added to that to make sure we've got what we need to do, what we plan to.
Gotcha.
There's an open area in the backside of the facility that we plan to kind of put something on to make it, available for outdoor use. And that's what we intend to do with those dollars.
Great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's good. Any other questions, comments? I just want to echo what Mayor Pro Tem said. Great job, Joel. His office and folks working with him do a great job staying on top of this. HUD has been a little bit difficult lately just to get things wrapped up and going. So some of those orange bars will be moving to blue pretty quick. As we finally, what was it, Joel, in those 2 plan years, we finally received the money about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
Actually, a couple of months ago.
A couple months ago, yeah. And we're finally starting to roll those out to, subrecipients and whatnot to get some good in our community. So, yeah, just great staying with it. Obviously looking forward to the public hearing and what we have as far as program year coming up. It's a great opportunity. It's not a ton of money, but it's money that's coming in from the feds, and we certainly want to do it and do it right, allocate it properly, and do all those good things. So thank you for all that. Thank you for the rest of your staff that helps with coordinating and putting it all together. All right, we'll move to new business item number 10. Member Hernandez, would you place that on the table, please?
Sure thing, Mayor. Consideration and possible action resolution number R2022-145. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a recommendation for an award on construction services for the Broadway Dixie Farm capital project that's been in your CIP, and it's been challenged to work with our partners at TxDOT, but I believe we're to the point that we're to a point where we can get this at least moving for this next stage. Recommendations go with the SAPO engineering consultants. Nothing to add.
Good deal. Turn it over to questions, comments, concerns. Member Owens?
Yeah. Why are we doing this one? Both of these are farm to market roads. They belong to the state. Dixie Farm Road, the main road out here, 518.
So, Councilman Owens, thank you for your question. Actually, Dixie Farm is not farm to market road. That is actually our road. And so we're only working on the Dixie Farm side. We cannot get permission to partner to work on the TxDOT Farm to Market 518 road. This has also been part of our 2015 TMP or Transportation Management Plan to improve this intersection with dual lefts in each direction.
Do we get any kind of reimbursement out of the state since these are farm to market roads?
Not on this project, and we're only working on our side of that road.
But correct me if I'm wrong, as I alluded to, or as I said, we have to coordinate with them because of the other piece of it. Or that is adjacent, right?
Yeah, we have to coordinate directly with them. We had to get permission to also work with them as well, but there is no financial componentry from TxDOT.
I was just wondering because, both of them being state roadways.
But it's only one that's a state road.
So, yeah, just to clarify, only FM 518 is a state roadway. Dixie Farm Road is a city road.
So what?
Dixie Farm Road is a city road. That is not a state road.
No, it's farm to market road, 1959.
The FM portion of it doesn't extend into Pearland, so that's our road and our responsibility.
Maybe, but it's farm to market road, 1959. Is that one? So I just wanted both of them being farm to market roads. I guess we got the part inside the city.
So north of the city, past the creek, that's where it turns into FM 1959, I believe.
Yes, sir. I'm not
South of that,
exactly
in the
sure
city of
exactly
Pearland
where it
is-
changes, but within our jurisdiction, it's
Somewhere outside of our jurisdiction is where it changes to the FM road.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? He was just stalling till you got back. We're on new business item number 10. So, yeah, intersection improvements on Broadway at Dixie Farm Road. Looks like this will bring some needed left turn lane action there. Hopefully one day we can make sure those lights turning north will stay green a little bit longer than 5 cars going through. and allow a few more to head on up. So anyway, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Hernandez.
Aye.
Member Cade.
Aye.
Member Barry.
Aye.
Member Owens.
Aye.
Member Koza.
Aye.
Member Carbone.
Aye.
Okay, this motion passes 6-0.
Member Cade, we're round to you. New business item number 11, please.
Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2022-146. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Another one of the successes that council heard about at our last CIP update was the progress on closing out work orders associated with sidewalk maintenance specifically. We've gotten a really good staff oversight program and management of that, but we also have a good contractor, and so this contract is to renew with Greenscape for the time period allotted to keep us on a positive trajectory there. And the contract amount will be up to $932,000. Nothing to add.
Good deal. Questions, comments, concerns from council? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Cade.
Aye.
Member Barry.
Aye.
Member Owens.
Aye.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Member Owens.
Woody, repeat. She didn't hear you.
Okay. You didn't hear me?
No.
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you. Member Koza.
Aye.
Member Carbone.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
I didn't get to vote.
Oh my gosh, Hernandez, I'm sorry, because you're right under my absent.
But you're right. It did pass again. Aye.
There we go. Yeah. All right. Moving to new business item number 12. Mr. Barry, would you present that, please?
You bet, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2022-151.
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Pick either one. Let's just do Member Hernandez. Seconded it. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. As part of our voter-approved bond issue, we have Parks Recapitalization Program. One of the things that we've saved up for is to try to get a good irrigation system that's modern and programmable and gets us all the information data we need. We will separately get you an update on some of the comments from earlier, but this is the very thing that will help us move towards automation and being able to manage that whole system remotely in large part. And so, but this gets us towards that with the 2 years of bond monies and $832,000 to landscape art to get that going. Nothing to add.
Sounds good. Any questions, comments, concerns from council? Member Koza?
I guess several years ago, I reached out to you back when we were at Centennial about the same issue. So I think it's something we need to take care of.
Yeah. I remember that very well. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I just got a simple question. Do we have any on this irrigation that we use gray water?
Councilman Owen, at this time, no. This was all potable water, as we presented in our white papers last couple weeks ago. Is that was a plan or a potential for you to consider taking a look at reuse and what that would take over the years to implement. Yeah. Currently, right now, all of our water systems for parks are on potable water.
If we could find some use for it closer range, it wasn't going to cost us that much. That'd be good.
Member Hernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. This is loosely related, but I know we've looked at potentially having a water truck, and I was informed that maybe it's on back order or they're just not available or what have you. But is that something that would, if we ever ran into any other irrigation issues, would be useful in anyone's opinion? We got to be able to parks.
See a water jug?
A water truck.
Truck. Oh.
Yes.
For what purpose? For watering?
Yeah, if we have any irrigation systems that are out, something like that, that for instance, this specifically came up because we planted the 1,000 trees there at the JHEC, and JHEC has very limited irrigation. So it was kind of something that could have been used for that. And then in the front of that area as well, there was no irrigation for a while, and I think it was fixed, and then it wasn't working. And so just as, I guess, a backup if there are any issues. Just kind of curious.
Councilman Hernandez, currently with our streets and drainage department, we do have a 300-gallon tow behind that we use. So if we get into that situation, we can partner with parks and be able to utilize what we have on hand already.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Upton, for the reuse water that you were speaking of last meeting, I think it was, what is it going to take to get that going?
We outlined an idea associated that in the white paper that was submitted.
Right.
It talks about having to work at those specific wastewater plants, upgrading them to make sure they make type 1 water, which is available for human contact as type 1 water. And then proceeding forward with the design and implementation of a distribution system for that. So there will be a tank and a pressurization station at the wastewater plants, and then a distribution out to our medians and parks from there. So it'll take some time and design level, and then also moving forward with one more component that was mentioned in that paper is that it is in the Region H water plan that City of Pearland could petition SWIFT funding, which is low interest loans, for water reclamation, because we do have it in that plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, and we'll place item 13 on the table. We're going to come to Councilmember Owens, but I'd like Mr. Coker to read the full text, because this requires the full text to be read. At the end, you can make the motion to approve.
And yes, Mayor and council members, but before I do so, I'm just going to let everyone understand a little bit about what this is about before I read it into the record. This is an eminent domain matter, and so this is a process we have to go through and pass these resolutions before we can acquire property that we haven't been able to negotiate a settlement with. So I'm going to go ahead and read the caption, and state law just requires that that the entire caption be read out in the meeting, and then if a council member could so move that, then we'll go ahead and proceed. This is consideration possible action, resolution number 2022-154, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire fee title to certain property for drainage improvements, being a 4.3899 acre tract of land, being out of that called 15.301 acre tract of land described in deed recorded under file number H174596, deed records of Harris County, Texas, situated in the S.G. Haney Survey, abstract number 362, Harris County, Texas, for the construction and maintenance of public drainage improvements on certain real property described herein. If I could have a council member so move on that, and then a second.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other staff report other than what Mr. Coker just said?
Just to clarify that this is property that's in the Lower Kirby Master Drainage Plan, and so this will be help fulfilling some of the projects associated with the Master Drainage Plan in that area. This specifically is 4.3 acres located just north of Clear Creek at Alameda School Road, and we just haven't been able to reach an agreement. We're pretty far apart. I think you saw the information in there, and so we need to go ahead and proceed so that we can acquire the property.
All right. With that, any other questions, comments from council? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we call for the vote. Oh, Member Berry, did you have one? Or are you reaching? No. All right. Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Berry?
Aye.
Member Owens?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, matters removed from consent agenda. There are none. Other business, there is none. Mayor council issues for city council discussion, none needed. Moving to executive session under Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, personnel matters regarding the appointment of associate municipal court judges, and Section 551.074, personnel matters regarding city boards and commissions. We will adjourn into executive session at 9:37. City Council has returned from executive session at 10:07 p.m. Item number 14, Mayor Pro Tem, do we have a motion to consider?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action appointment of the 3 associate municipal court judges as discussed in executive session. So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Madam Member Cade, we'll take that.
Do you have to vote if they all second it?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody seconded.
I
Anyway,
seconded for
Madam
Woody.
Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Berry?
All right.
Member Owens? Oh, I'm sorry, he's not. Member Koza?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0.
All right, and item number 15, we'll take no action on, so we'll move to adjournment at 10:08.